to control a population, you need to feed them a certain lie that is repeated an innumerable number of times so that they consume it, they believe it, and then they act upon whatever they're told in the future. اور پچھلے 10 سال, at least the last 10 years, ہم دیکھ رہے ہیں کہ جب سے بی جے پی حکومت میں آئے ہیں 2014 میں, I guess, that they have been repeatedly saying the same thing to their public, saying the same thing to their electoral voters, کہ ہم جنگ لڑیں گے, ہم جیتیں گے, ہم اکھنڈ بھارت کا ویژن اس کو حاصل کریں گے. And we talked last time that what Akhand Bharat is a pan-Hindu nation that stretches beyond the borders of India, beyond Bangladesh, beyond Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all the way up to Saudi Arabia. Now, these illusions and fantasies, these the propaganda that we think that they are doing, you have to also understand that propaganda is not just words. They act upon it. Ab dekhein, as we mentioned last time as well, the influence that they had in Bangladesh up until Sheikh Hasina was ousted. Ab halat dekhein Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh ke andar. And more importantly, look at the relationship that Bengalis have with Pakistan. Jab cricket match hota hai, well, I think there's only been one match, but Bengalis were happy. They were happy they were playing against Pakistan. The public, the people, the supporters, they said कि कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा अगर पाकिस्तान जीतेगा. They're happy. And in the same way, Pakistanis were also happy that we have our relatives back, we have our family back. Ab Akhand Bharat is a pan-Hindu nation that stretches beyond the borders of Islamic nations. All the nations that I mentioned that go westward, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, most of the Middle East, and all the way up to Saudi Arabia, that is a Muslim belt. That entire belt is Muslim. Then on the east, you have the Bangladesh as well. If you go further east, you reach Malaysia, Indonesia, and so on. We have a very big Muslim belt from Tunisia or Algeria all the way up to Indonesia. Ab Hindustan usme shamil hai, and they think that they have the right or they have the audacity to think that they have a game plan to eradicate Muslims from this entire region. And this is what they're selling to their public. To what end? Is waqt, they have one of the largest Muslim populations anywhere in the world, larger than even Pakistan. More than 250 million Muslims inside India right now. And the war that they are performing on the Muslims inside India is only an example because they did it with the people of Kashmir. They started with the people of Kashmir for 70 years. Humne, as Kashmiris, humne ishara diya Muslimanon ko in India कि जो हमारे साथ हो रहा है वो आपके साथ भी होगा. And वही हुआ. 2019 में CAA and NRC bills were put into a law जहाँ पे anybody that isn't a Hindu is considered to be a second-class citizen. In Assam, they created concentration camps. But most importantly, is the narrative that is being perpetuated inside India and by extension the rest of the world is that Muslims are a fundamental problem all over the world. Ab main Britania mein hu. Since I've come back, मैं पाकिस्तान में था 2 महीने के लिए. I think I've been back for about a month. And in the last month, the amount of Islamophobia that we're seeing here is unprecedented. Not just because of what's happening with the Palestinians, not just because of what's happening with the Kashmiris, but because the narrative that has been going on since 9/11 has been that Muslims and Islam is an infestation. I use the word infestation because these are the words that the Hindu right wing and the Zionists use for Muslims, that these are cockroaches, they're second-class citizens, not even second-class, third-class citizens. So the illusion that India is performing, or the illusion for the rest of the world, is that India is a secular nation. That simply isn't possible, in the same way that Israel is not a secular nation. So many times questions have been asked to the Supreme Court inside Israel that is this a Jewish state or is this a secular state? And every single time the High Court or the Supreme Court has come back and said this is a Jewish state. And in the same way in India, they believe that this is a Hindu state. वो कहते हैं कि एक हिंदू राष्ट्र है. तो अगर हिंदू राष्ट्र है, so why do we as Muslims think that we need to change India into a secular nation when they don't believe they are, that is their goal, that is their agenda? They strictly believe that they want to implement a Hinduized version of the law, which they are already doing and in many places already have done. Now, the delusion that India has is that this is going to be acceptable to the rest of the world. Kisi had tak ye acceptable tha. Recently, the Indian American Muslim Council in the United States issued a report, and then there was another council, the Muslims in the UK, the Indian Muslims in the UK. They also issued a report describing the effects of something that happened in a city called Leicester in the United Kingdom, jahan pe ladai hui thi after a Pakistan-India match. And the report, as well as the police, have conclusively said that this was not just India-Pakistan rivalry, it was a Hindutva, right-wing Hindutva fascist aggression on the streets of Leicester. Yani ki India are now exporting their version of democracy or Hindutva to the rest of the world. Aap dekhiye ki in Qatar, spies were caught. In Germany, spies were caught. In America, assassins were caught. In Pakistan, more than 20 Kashmiri leaders were assassinated, not to mention the terrorism that is happening in Balochistan, in KPK, and all the different places inside Pakistan, performed by India. Now, the delusion that India has is that, as I said, that they feel that they can get away with this. The problem is, and Palestine is such an important case and point for this, that now the international world are now starting to say that we are prepared to recognize Palestine. Well, until last year, hame sab pata hai that everybody was pro-Israel. Everybody was saying that Israel has the right to defend itself, so-called. Israel has the right to block water and aid and food and supplies and electricity. They have the right to do all of these things. Jisko hame pata hai ki collective punishment is an illegal act. Now they're prepared to recognize Palestine. Why? For what purpose? How did this change suddenly happen? Simple si baat hai, it is because of people like yourselves that are active, that read, that learn, that understand, and then they propagate the correct narrative of Palestine to the extent that these governments can no longer comfortably believe that they will maintain power, or at least maintain their rule in whichever country they belong in, be it in France, in the UK, in America, jo bhi hai, because the public are no longer believing the nonsense and propaganda. और जो हिंदुस्तान की delusion है, उनको लगता है कि nobody is going to counter that. Until recently, when Donald Trump started to put tariffs, very high tariffs, on India, it's interesting because he didn't put tariffs on Pakistan, but he has put tariffs on India, and exorbitant tariffs on India, to the extent that if you look at the Indian media, वो कह रहे हैं that this is a war against India, हम नहीं झुकेंगे, हम ये करेंगे, हम वो करेंगे, लेकिन कुछ नहीं कर सकते. They're still a third world country, one of the highest poverty places in the world, places of poverty in the world. So India doesn't have that power, but the illusion, you see, it's delusions and illusions. The delusion that they have is that the world will side with them. And the illusion that they're creating is for their own population, कि हम मजबूत है, हम कमजोर नहीं है, हम झुकेंगे नहीं, हम कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकता है हमारे खिलाफ. And that's the reality that we are in today. We're in a pivotal point in history. Very few times in history that we can find a point जहाँ पे हमें पता है कि this is where things can change. And aksar it happens historically, and you can't be there to do anything because history is gone. We are in a moment of history right now for the people of Palestine, for the Muslims of Kashmir, and by extension, the rest of the Muslim world, where things can change. We have seen the power of the public. We have seen the power of du'as. We have seen the power of activism, online as well as offline. Muazzam Beg, if anybody is familiar with Muazzam Beg, he was a former Guantanamo detainee. He was arrested today by the police protesting for Palestine. He's been thus far released, but he was only released because there was pressure, because people know who Muazzam Beg is, because he is on the right side of history. He is on the haq, and we know that we are on the haq. फिर हम क्यों डरते हैं? For what reason? Why is it that we don't have the confidence to act the way that we feel or the way that we know that we need to do? What is it that hinders us? And that's a genuine question that everybody needs to ask of themselves. It's not about, you can't say that I don't have the information. Mujhe bataye ki, do you get your information? When we spoke about this last time, you don't get your information from BBC or Sky News or Fox TV or from Donald Trump or from the British government about Palestine. So why don't you get that information, the way that you find out things about Palestine? Why don't you do that for the people of Kashmir or for the Muslims inside India and the way that they're suffering? So right now, India is in a very critical point in its economic future, in its political future, in its diplomatic future, that they are very weak. They are becoming weaker and weaker and weaker, and Pakistan has become stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is something that we need to take pride in. But more importantly, now that you recognize that Pakistan is on the front foot, Pakistan is in the driving seat, Pakistan has played a phenomenal role and can continue to play a role. And India is weakened day by day by day because of their own policies, because of their own delusions and the illusions that they create. Where do we fit into this? The states will do what they need to do. What is it that we are going to do? And that is where we really need to have a discussion and understand one another to figure out where do we fit in. Because nobody can, in the context of Palestine, nobody can say that we failed. We failed the people of Palestine, but at least we didn't fail in our responsibilities of advocacy, on coming to the streets, in researching, in publications. Leave the people of Palestine to themselves. They don't need us, we need them. And that is the God's honest truth. It is a test for us, not a test for them. वो लोग तो जानती है, जो भी होगा, they are Jannah. They have guaranteed Jannah. We do not. We are in a very difficult position. So, if we see that Zionism is failing and it is weakening, recognize that India is also weakening. Of course, the events of May help it a lot, but also recognize that the way that Hindutva works is it copies Zionism. उनको लगता है कि हम अपने tentacles, अपने जो हाथ पांव हैं, हम हर किसी जगह पे फैला सकते हैं. But the problem is that the people are no longer stupid. The people have information. The people understand things a lot better than maybe my generation did 20 years ago. So this generation today understands things much faster, much better than we did. So the question really is for this generation is what can we all do for the people of Kashmir and by extension, the rest of the Muslim world? I think as an opening statement, that should be enough.
Thank you very much, Muzammil bhai. And मैं अभी जो 5 अगस्त 2019 का जो इवेंट गुजरा, जो ब्लैक डे मनाया गया, मैं चाहूंगा उसके हवाले से हम थोड़ी बात करें. आर्टिकल 370 ये क्या है, and what are the promises that were made to the Kashmiri people on the 26 October 1947. और इसका अगर आप हमें थोड़ा हिस्टोरिकल बैकग्राउंड बता दें, और what is Article 370?
So historically, हर किसी को पता है कि Muslim states went to Pakistan and Hindu states went to India. Kashmir was an anomaly. We had a Hindu ruler and we had a Muslim population. But you also had the case of Junagadh, and I'm not sure that whether anybody knows about Junagadh. Junagadh also had something similar. It had a Muslim ruler and Hindu subjects, the reverse of Kashmir. And the Indian government of the day, at that time, under Nehru, said that we need to give the people the right to self-determination. Let them decide. We should not listen to the ruler. Because Junagadh ka jo ruler tha, jo Nawab tha, Musliman tha, and he wanted to accede to Pakistan. He did not just want to accede, he acceded. Document, instrument of accession signed hai, Pakistan ke paas hai, India ke paas hai. Everybody knows about this. This is not a secret. It is documented history. But when it came to Kashmir, we had a Hindu ruler and Muslim subjects. But we weren't given the right to self-determination that India had promised Junagadh. Baat ye hai ki the issue then went by India. They were the ones that took the issue of Kashmir to the United Nations, and the United Nations created a Security Council resolution jahan pe hum logon ne kaha ki right to self-determination for the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir. वो फैसला खुद करें कि वो क्या चाहते हैं. At the time, the Maharaja Hari Singh had acceded to India on the condition of communications, protection of borders, and I think currency or something like this. These were the only things that were acceded to with India. And India allotted Article 370 and 35A, jahan pe Kashmir had its own autonomy within the Indian constitution, but it had its own autonomy. And 35A was important because it gave land rights to Kashmiris that nobody else outside of Kashmir could purchase land. Or हमें पता है कि ज़मीन के साथ क्या हो सकती है. It is demographic change and settler colonization. So that was protected. If anything, it was हम कश्मीरी कहते हैं माटा फूल. It was a band-aid on cancer. It was a bandage on cancer. It wasn't a treatment, but at least it maintained the illusion inside India that Kashmir was a disputed territory. And for the United Nations, कि अभी there is no solution. We're still working on it. The Article 35A and 370 as long as it was maintained that there was some kind of negotiation that could happen inside the United Nations. In 2019, India revoked everything. Un logon ne absorb kiya Kashmir into mainland India, no different to Bengal, no different to Maharashtra, no different to UP, no different to Bihar. We were no different to anybody else. And that was illegal because it's still a disputed territory according to the United Nations, according to the people of Kashmir, according to Pakistan. India unilaterally, to make that decision, they had to not only destroy our legislative assembly, arrest all our political leaders, be they pro-Indian or pro-resistance, but they also had to amend their own constitution. Ab itna inko karna pada just to make sure that they could occupy Kashmir once and for all. Aajkal aap sun rahe hain baat ke Netanyahu is saying that they want to occupy the entire of Gaza. Ab, sometimes I say that kabhi Israel, they take the first step and then India copies, and sometimes India takes the first step and then Israel copies. This is one of those times where India has already taken the step in 2019, 6 years ago, and Israel today are now trying to copy exactly the same thing by taking over the entire of Gaza. So that's the context of Article 370 and 35A. Now, from a Kashmiri's point of view, everything is irrelevant. None of it makes a difference. Agar Hindustan kal Article 370, 35A wapas denge, that doesn't end the occupation, that doesn't end the human rights violations, that doesn't end the demand for the right to self-determination. Hamara ye nahi hai chahat ki we want to stay as an autonomous region or rule ourselves or have our own flag or jo bhi hai within the Indian constitution. We want the right to decide our own future, even if it is with India, even if it is with Pakistan. Nehru's words were exactly this, that even if it pains us that the people of Kashmir want to separate from India, they have the right to decide that future. Like, subsequent governments and world leaders have, Indian leaders have rejected that. Now, koi kahega ki Congress party jo opposition hai, Rahul Gandhi, ki wo BJP se behtar hai. Yaad rakhe that on the floor of the Indian Parliament, when India finalized Article 370 and 35A, the abrogation of it, it was the Congress party under the rule of, under the leadership of Rahul Gandhi that said कि आप लोग फायदा उठा रहे हैं कि ये तो हमारा काम था, हम पिछले 50 साल से यही काम कर रहे थे. आहिस्ता 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 आप लोगों ने सिर्फ एंड का वो जो they put the final nail in the coffin. So they are as bad as each other. So do not be in the illusion that any political leader inside Kashmir, inside India, has some kind of affinity to the people of Kashmir. The only people that we have right now in the world that by and large support Kashmir and the right to self-determination, irrespective of what we decide, is the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan.
Okay, but the thing is that there were United Nations resolutions. It was in 47, 51, 18, 91, 96 that Jammu Kashmir is a disputed territory. But regardless of this, Article 370 को abrogate किया गया और हुआ, लेकिन उसके बाद यूनाइटेड नेशंस का कोई रद्द-ए-अमल नहीं नजर आया, कोई एक्शन नहीं नजर आया. So are we still hopeful with the United Nations के कुछ होगा? What is the way
That's a good
forward? इस
question.
legal battle को कैसे लिया जा सकता है?
That's a very good question. Even if this was not a legal matter, it is still a moral and ethical one. So we are not dependent on the United Nations, क्योंकि आज तक United Nations ने क्या किया? लेकिन there is a precedent. क्योंकि even if our moral and ethical farz jo hai, and we act upon that, there is still a possibility that the international world, including the United Nations, can say ye to illegal hai. So we use their own laws against them. वो कहते हैं कि people have the right to armed resistance. So we utilize that. It doesn't matter if somebody declares armed resistance as terrorism. When the United Nations gives you the right to defend yourself, then you defend yourself. So it isn't the fact that we want the United Nations to intervene. It is the fact that the United Nations is supposed to be a moral authority over the Western powers and the Western societies. तो हम वही इस्तेमाल करते हैं Western लोगों को समझाना कि हमारा जो हुकूक है, all the rights that we have in resistance is still there. उनके resolutions है या नहीं है, हमें पता है कि हमें क्या करना है. It is just coincidence, इत्तेफाक है कि that they agree with us, that we have the right to decide our own future. So, for example, जो लोग West में रहते हैं, आप लोग तो पाकिस्तान में हैं, तो you can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. In the West, well, there are parameters and there are restrictions. So it is in our favor that those restrictions exist for us. اینڈ ہم وہی استعمال کرتے ہیں جو ہمیں کرنا ہی تھا, whether the UN resolutions were there or not, international law was there or not. اتفاق ہے that we align on the same principles, so we utilize those. اب یونائٹڈ نیشنز کا رول اس وقت کیا ہے, وہ کیا کر سکتے ہیں, ہر کسی کو پتا ہے کہ ان لوگوں نے کیا کیا غزہ کے لیے. We all know what they did during the genocide in Rwanda, or for that matter Srebrenica. In all of these places, they were lacking a lot. And it's یہ بھی ہو سکتا ہے because of veto powers, because of political will, جو بھی ہے. But at the end of the day, peace comes after war, unfortunately. And Kashmir has seen a lot of war. So ultimately, Hindustan ko, to put India back onto the negotiating table, unfortunately, it will take a war. And we've already seen one in May, and I hesitate to think what the next war will look like.
اوکے، ہم نے اپنی لاسٹ ایپیسوڈ میں بھی جو آپ کے ساتھ ہوئی تھی اس میں ڈسکس کیا تھا the similarities between the ہندوتوا and the Zionism. اور آپ نے ہمیں بتایا تھا کہ if Israel is the guru or Kashmir is the lab. Okay, so the same thing is happening in Kashmir also, which is demographic engineering. اور آرٹیکل 335A کے بعد وہ زیادہ بڑھ گئی بیکاز اجازت مل گئی لینڈ بائی کرنے کی. سو ہاؤ ڈو یو سی دس ڈیموگرافک انجینئرنگ, ہاؤ از اٹ ہیپننگ؟ اور آلسو ایک جینوسائڈ از ہیپننگ, سسٹمیٹک جینوسائڈ از ہیپننگ ان دا کشمیر, لیکن ہم میں سے بہت سے لوگوں کو نہیں پتا کہ یہ جینوسائڈ کیسے ہو رہی ہے. تو آپ کائنڈلی ہمیں اس کے بارے میں بتائیں.
The genocide, ہم شروع کرتے ہیں 1947 سے. The Jammu genocide, 250,000 people were massacred in a few days. More than 250,000 people. یہ کوئی کشمیری نہیں کہتا ہے, نہ پاکستانی کوئی کہہ رہا ہے, نہ کوئی انڈین کہہ رہا ہے. یہ لنڈن ٹائمز کہتے ہیں, a British newspaper in London that reported that more than 250,000 people were killed, and some estimates say that 400,000. چلو میں 4 لاکھ کو نہیں کہوں گا, لیکن میں کم از کم 2.5 لاکھ تو ہوا تھا. That was the first
2.5
genocide
لاکھ
that happened. 2.5
2.5
لاکھ لوگ,
لاکھ
مطلب within days, and they
اور
were
یہ صرف
all Muslim.
1947 میں ہوا.
Exactly, the Jammu genocide. So this happened within a few days, and this was against the Muslim population. And it's, if you really want to understand Hindutva, un dinhon mein it was the Hindutva people that were supporters of the ideology of Savarkar and Golwalkar that implemented a lot of these genocidal acts inside Kashmir, inside Jammu at that time. So we've had genocides happening since then, and then massacres, Gau Kadal massacre, the Cheti Singhpura massacre, jahan pe Sikh assassinate hue the, they were all killed, and it was blamed on Muslim, let's not call the population, but it was blamed on Mujahideen. And it turns out years later that President Clinton had done an investigation, and Madeleine Albright, I think she was the Secretary of State, she wrote in her book that it was found out that the Indian government had done it themselves. ایک false flag operation تھا. اب جب ہم آج کل بات کرتے ہیں پہلگام ایک false flag operation تھا یا پلوامہ false flag, مطلب کب سے انڈیا false flag operations کر رہے ہیں, لیکن کسی کو یاد نہیں ہے. ہماری قربانی 1947 سے آج تک کسی کو یاد نہیں ہے. اب 4 یا 5 یا 6 نام لوگوں کو پتا ہے, لیکن جو پورا ہسٹری ہے کسی کو یاد ہی نہیں ہے, کسی کو پتا بھی نہیں ہے. کسی کو پتا ہے کہ طفیل متو کے ساتھ کیا ہوا, کسی کو یاد ہے وامق فاروق کو. Does anybody remember Insha Mushtaq ya Asya and Nilofer, jo Shupian, in my hometown, they were raped, gang raped in the apple orchards and then thrown into the river. Kisi ko Jalil Andrabi ko yaad hai, he was supposed to give evidence to the United Nations Judiciary Committee, and then he was found the next day inside Srinagar with all his body parts cut up into pieces and a bullet in his forehead. Kisi ko yaad hai ye baat hai? So genocide, the genocide that's happening inside Kashmir has been going on for a long time. लेकिन सवाल ये उठता है कि हम इंसान नहीं हैं, हम मुसलमान नहीं हैं, that people won't speak about us. What is it about the people of Kashmir that the rest of the Muslim world doesn't recognize our plight? Why? What is it that we have done? What more do we need to do? और कितनी कुर्बानी देनी है? Tens of thousands of women have been raped and gang raped. Hundreds of thousands of orphans. You have these mass graves, thousands of mass graves. Thousands. Human shields children as young as 18 months being blinded in their eyes, children as young as 3-year-old Burhan being killed, or even 4-year-olds abducted in the middle of the night from their homes, arrested, 4-year-old. मैं कश्मीर में था when I saw, I think he was a 9-year-old being arrested and chained and taken to jail. A 9-year-old. जहाँ पे जेल के अंदर वो murderers, चरसी, alcoholics, you have the worst of people in society, and he's being taken to jail with them. लेकिन nobody talks about us. Why? तो settler colonization पे ये है कि that things have been fast-tracked since 2019. ये जो Indian Consul General in New York, he made a statement in 2019 on record, videoed, verbatim, that he said, if Israel can do it, why can't we, in regards to settler colonization and demographic change inside Kashmir. Article 370 और 35, खास तौर पर 35A को हटाना यही मकसद था कि वो influx करें of non-Kashmiris. And that is exactly what's happened, or has already been happening, even before 35A was revoked. Before 2019, we had nearly 500,000 non-Kashmiris. And then after 2019, ये जो certificates, they call them domicile certificate. ज़माना था, we had state subject. जैसे शायद पाकिस्तान में भी है state subject certificate. तो वो हट गया, अब तो domicile certificates बन गए. और domicile किसी को भी मिल सकती है जिसने थोड़ा सा time गुजारा है कश्मीर के अंदर. Be they military, be they a hair-cutting person, be they a worker, जो भी है, they have the right. So that is how they are performing settler colonization. And then demographic changes, of course, by killing people, by producing medicine that is fake or disadvantageous. कल या परसों पता चल गया कि जो वहाँ पे गोश्त है वो सब out of date और मतलब it's not fit for consumption. There was a time, and I think even in Pakistan, you may know this, pigs, soar, was not existent inside Kashmir. Even dogs, we didn't have dogs inside Kashmir. Since 2019, pigs and dogs are everywhere. Where do they come from? So this is another way. Settler colonization and demographic change, or for that matter, genocide, does not always happen with guns and bullets. Genocide can happen, it's cultural genocide. दूसरा है, we coined this, the memoricide. Memoricide is the erasure of our memory, of our history, of our narrative. Then there's culture, there's history, there's language, there's religion. जो हमारा Kashmiri Zaban है, I think I mentioned this last time, that the Kashmiri languages now, there's been a bill that is about to be passed, that Kashmiri language is no longer going to be relevant inside Kashmir, and people have to speak Sanskrit, not Urdu. Urdu was our natural, Kashmiri and Urdu was our natural language. Now they want to impose Sanskrit on us. It is like Pakistani government telling the people of Pakistan that no longer are you going to be able to speak Urdu, Punjabi, Pashto, jo bhi hai, you now have to speak, I don't know, German from tomorrow. Nahi ho sakta hai. It's just not possible. And that is how you eliminate the people in a nation that is considered to be less than humans, less than Indians, less than Hindus, less than anything. So these are the different ways that genocide happens. It isn't just by shedding blood. It is also by cultural, the ethical, the religious, the education. मैंने पिछली बार भी यही कहा था that our masjids are becoming into mandirs, turning into mandirs. और जो imam है, they are being replaced by state-sponsored imams. और वो भी पता नहीं कि वो सच में मुसलमान है या नहीं. There are stories inside Pakistan where spies have been caught, Indian spies have been caught teaching in the madrasas, और वो हिंदू थे. There were Indian spies, Hindu spies in Pakistan जो madrasa में Quran पढ़ाते थे. So these things are realities that we are facing right now. This isn't just a history lesson. These aren't just stories from the past. This isn't just fiction. This is happening right now. Every second we are here, something is happening inside Kashmir, and yet people don't either know about it and nor do they act upon it.
Okay, after Article 35A, around 5 million new domiciles has been issued to Indians. UN is silent, but why is the Muslim world silent on it? What is the reason? Why are not the brother Muslim talking about it?
When the Palestinian issue first formed, the way that the public, irregardless of what the Palestinians felt, the way that the public understood it, especially under Yasser Arafat, the PLO, they found this to be a secular movement against apartheid, something that people understood because of South Africa. ہمارا موومنٹ تو پیورلی مسلم ہے, اسلامک موومنٹ ہے. یہ تو اب لوگوں کو سمجھ میں آ گیا کہ نہیں, فلسطین ایک مسلم ایشو ہے. بٹ ان دا بگننگ, حامد صاحب, maybe you may remember that at a point in time it was very secularized. It was extremely secularized. Nobody knew any other name except Yasser Arafat. For whatever good or evil that he had committed or not done or done good, whatever it was, it's irrelevant. The point is he was the only figure that people knew. Now we know different names. But at that time, that was the way that it was seen. Now, and the most importantly, having a state backing you has its benefits as well as its problems as well. Palestine doesn't technically have any state openly lobbying for it or supplying or doing that. Iran, you can say to some extent, but it isn't at that level the way that Pakistan does for the people of Kashmir. That gives it a different flavor. With the Palestinians, they can create an indigenous movement that they can control the narrative of, until and unless you have Western people hijack it. Or humne dekha hai, we've seen many people in the West, Europeans, white people, the liberal class, the LGBTQ, all of these different people try to convey Palestine as a different issue, one that maybe people inside Palestine don't recognize. But the one thing that is common between all of them is that Palestinian people should be platformed, they should be given their voices, and that the Israeli occupation should end. With Kashmir, we are a few people. We are very few in numbers outside of Indian-occupied Kashmir. So naturally, our alliance is with the people of Azad Kashmir and the people of Pakistan. And we depend on the people of Pakistan and Azad Kashmir to genuinely represent the people of Kashmir, or at least platform us, help us, do something with us. And until Azad Kashmiris and Pakistanis don't get their house in order in the diaspora, we will continue to suffer. क्योंकि आप अभी भी फिरकों में पड़े हैं कि मैं नून लीग का हूँ, मैं पीटीआई का हूँ, मैं पीपीपी का हूँ, मैं ये हूँ, मैं जमाती हूँ, मैं एलएडीस हूँ. यार मतलब what is this got to do with the people of Kashmir? उस वक्त तो आपको याद नहीं है जब फलस्तीन के लिए आप एहतजाज करते हैं या बात करते हैं या एक्टिविज्म करते हैं. उस वक्त तो आपको याद नहीं है कि हम फिरके में हैं, मगर कश्मीर के वक्त हर कोई फिरके में है. So before we talk about the Arab Muslims, let's talk about our own Muslims. We have many more Muslims between us in Pakistan and Azad Kashmir. We don't need to talk about the Arabs. अरबों ने क्या किया फलस्तीन के लिए कि वो कश्मीर के लिए करेंगे? पाकिस्तान ने किया है. पाकिस्तान ने किया है अजरबैजान के लिए, पाकिस्तान ने किया है कुवैत के लिए, पाकिस्तान ने किया है सऊदी अरब के लिए, पाकिस्तान ने बनाया दुबई, पूरा दुबई. Pakistan has done a lot for many countries. So let's not look towards the Arab countries. Let's talk about Pakistan. Let's talk about the people of Pakistan. Again, हुकूमत की बात नहीं है. बात यह है अवाम पाकिस्तान and Azad Kashmir. That why do you remember your allegiances, your little pockets when it comes to Kashmir, but you forget them all and you are unified when it comes to Palestine? तो सवाल मेरे लिए नहीं है हामिद साहब, सवाल तो आपके लिए है.
जी, और मेरे ख्याल से ये 14 अगस्त में चल रहा है. तो पाकिस्तान से पाकिस्तानियों से दो सवाल शायद एक्स्ट्रा किए जाएं. एक, तुम्हें कंट्री दी गई थी एंड यू प्रॉमिस विद द गॉड, विद द अल्लाह, के वी विल मेक अ मुस्लिम कंट्री वेयर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन विल बी इस्लामिक. एक तो ये सवाल होगा. दूसरा कश्मीर का सवाल जरूर होगा कि उन्होंने तुम्हारे लिए इतनी जानें दी और तुमने उनके लिए क्या किया. ओके मुजम्मिल भाई, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशंस. इवन हमें पता है आपके जो फादर हैं अयूब ठाकुर साहब, उनके साथ जो वायलेशंस की गई या आपके साथ इवन हुई, आसिया राबी साहबा, सईद अली गिलानी साहब, शबीर शरीफ साहब. अगर लिस्ट इसी तरह हम नाम लेते जाएं तो शायद बहुत टाइम लगे हमें और ये लिस्ट बहुत लंबी जाए. आर्टिकल 35 370 के बाद ऑलमोस्ट इंटरनेट का ब्लैकआउट था फॉर 250 डेज. पूरा साल ही इंटरनेट और ब्लॉकआउट रहा. जर्नलिज्म का भी न्यूज बाहर नहीं जाने दे रहे थे. इसको हमने लास्ट एपिसोड में डिस्कस किया था. इतनी बड़ी बड़ी वायलेशंस हो रही हैं और हम उसको उस तरह से क्या इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी को पता नहीं है? क्या ये हमारी खराबी है कि हम इसको प्रोजेक्ट नहीं कर पा रहे? और मैं चाहूंगा कि हम थोड़ा डिस्कस भी करें कि ये जो इलीगल डिटेंशंस हैं या फिर जो असैसिनेशंस हैं, इसके बारे में हम थोड़ी बात करें.
You know, it comes back to the same point جو میں نے کہا تھا that until we as Pakistanis and Azad Kashmiris, as we as Muslims, let's put a fine point on it, unless we get our house in order and we don't come to some kind of agreement on the issue of Kashmir, Kashmir is not going to be solved. اب ہم کشمیری جو ہیں اس وقت ہم we have very few numbers اور جو بھی ہے اگر نمبرز ہے بھی وہ سب ڈرتے ہیں because they have family in Kashmir. اب دیکھیں کہ میں بات کرتا ہوں مجھے پتا ہے کہ کل یا پرسوں میرے رشتہ داروں کے ساتھ کچھ نہ کچھ ہوگا. I made a statement in the United Nations جہاں پہ میں نے کہا کہ that the United Nations should sanction مودی امت شاہ اجیت دوول اور باقی یہ جو حکمران ہیں انڈیا کے اندر. I said that they should be considered to be war criminals and they should be tried in the war tribunal. I think within a week my uncle was killed. اس سے پہلے میں نے کچھ کسی اور جگہ پہ بات کی. My cousin was arrested. تو یہ لگاتار ایک چیز ہے جہاں پہ بھی کچھ ہوتا ہے جہاں پہ بھی میں بات کرتا ہوں یہ ایک ہی I'm just talking about one person. ایسے بہت ایسے کشمیری ہیں that also have a problem. So whatever I do, something happens to family members, but we do this because کوئی اور ہے ہی نہیں. I'm I should be asking you people کہ آپ لوگ بات کریں کیونکہ میرے اوپر بہت پریشر ہے. لیکن نہیں پھر بھی مجھے ہی جانا ہے جنگ میں. مجھے رائٹنگ بھی کرنی ہے, مجھے ریڈنگ بھی کرنی ہے, مجھے گھر بھی صاف کرنا ہے, مجھے جنگ بھی لڑنی ہے, مجھے جنرل بھی ہونا ہے, مجھے سپاہی بھی ہونا ہے. One person cannot do everything. And this is where the public of Pakistan are supposed to be standing shoulder to shoulder with us. میں یہ نہیں کہہ رہا ہوں کہ یہ تحریک آپ خود چلا لیں, میں یہ کہہ رہا ہوں کہ ہمارا ساتھ چلا لیں. It is your problem. It is as much my problem as it is your problem. And the human rights violations, it is not happening to Kashmiris. It is happening to Pakistanis. Kashmir is occupied, but it is Pakistan that is being occupied right now. It is Pakistan that is occupied by India. Don't think of this as some faraway place. It is on your doorstep. It is as close to you, closer to you than Punjab, than Balochistan, than KPK, than Gilgit-Baltistan. Kashmir is the Shahrag of Pakistan. What is more closer? So where is the pain that you are supposed to have? Where is the pain that you were supposed to have when Insha Mushtaq was blinded in both eyes? Where was the pain that you had when children as young as 3-year-old Burhan was killed in his father's lap? Where was the pain when women of Kunam Pushpura were raped, gang raped in front of their men, in front of their husbands, in front of their fathers, in front of their sons? Where was the outrage? Where was the pain that the people of Pakistan, our people, my people, the people that I believe I am a part of? کہاں تھے آپ لوگ؟ اس وقت کہاں ہیں؟ کہ ہمارا جو قربانی ہے وہ ایک ہسٹری لیسن ہے. Because it's not fair. جب ہم کہتے ہیں کہ ہم پاکستانی ہیں, پاکستان ہمارا ہے, آپ کو کیا لگتا ہے یہ ویسے ہی لوگ کہتے ہیں؟ ہمیں پتہ ہے کہ اس کا انجام کیا ہے. ہمیں پتہ ہے کہ اگر ہم نے پا بھی کیا, پاکستان کہنا بھی نہیں, اگر پا بھی کہا کہ ہندوستان کیا کریں گے ہمارے ساتھ. اور شہادت کے بعد بھی ہمیں پتہ ہے کہ ہم کہتے ہیں کہ we want to be wrapped in کفن میں نہیں لیکن پاکستان کا پرچم میں. Even after death ہم کہتے ہیں کہ ہم پاکستان, we prove that we are Pakistan. تو میں یہ نہیں کہہ رہا ہوں کہ آپ پروو کرو کہ آپ کا کشمیر کے ساتھ کوئی دلچسپی ہے. میں کہتا ہوں کہ آپ دکھائیں آپ پاکستانی ہو جس طریقے سے ہم کہتے ہیں ہم پاکستانی ہیں. Show me you are Pakistani. Don't tell me you are Pakistani. We prove we are Pakistani every single day. For those that believe in Ilhaq Pakistan. Some people may believe something different. So what? پھر بھی یہ ایک مسلم ایشو ہے. Whether you are a nationalist or whether you are an Islamist, I don't care. Take whatever you need. کوئی مجھے پوچھے گا اٹ از ناٹ ریلیونٹ کہ میرا آئیڈیالوجی کیا ہے. ریلیونٹ یہ ہے کہ آپ کیا کر سکتے ہیں اور آپ کی آئیڈیالوجی کہاں پہ جڑتی ہے کشمیر عوام کے ساتھ. کیونکہ فلسطین ایک اسلامک ایشو بھی ہے, ایک سیکولر ایشو بھی ہے. مطلب جن کو سیکولر ایشو بنانا ہے ان لوگوں نے بنا لیا, جن لوگوں نے اسلامک ایشو بنا لیا ان لوگوں نے اسی کے اوپر کام کرتے ہیں. جو ہیومن رائٹس کے اوپر کام کرتے ہیں ان لوگوں نے وہی دیکھ لیا فلسطین کے اندر. Take whatever you need from the people of Kashmir. Take whatever history that you need. Take whatever sacrifice that you need. اور اسی کے اوپر ایک بنیاد بنا لے اور اسی کے اوپر کام کر لے. You want to make Kashmir part of Pakistan? بنا لے. You want to end the human rights atrocities? وہی کر لے. کچھ تو کر لے. کیونکہ آخرت میں there is a dua. Fear the dua, there is a hadith. Fear the dua of the oppressed. قسم خدا کی that you do not want to hear the duas of the elderly mother that lost her son 30 years ago. जब मैं कहता हूँ lost, सच में lost, वो गुम हुआ. Nobody knows where he is. Enforced disappearances भी होती है कश्मीर के अंदर. Thousands of enforced disappearances. Think about the ladies जिनके husbands enforcibly disappeared होते हैं, यानी कि वो गायब हो चुके हैं because the Indian army have kidnapped them. अब पता नहीं है कि वो जिंदा है या वो शहीद हुए हैं. अब वो औरत, is she allowed to remarry or not? आप कोई फतवा निकालेगा यार, मतलब जब आप उस position में हो, when you become in that position of that lady, then tell me what the fatwa is. How can you forget your husband, the father of your children? How can you say that I can remarry if I have not seen his dead body? तो यही हकीकत है कश्मीर के अंदर. तो this is the, and even after all of this, this is the most important time that we are in right now, जहाँ पे India is teetering on the edge. सिर्फ एक थोड़ा सा धक्का देना है, गिर जाएंगे. और कश्मीर का ये जो आजादी है, it is intrinsically linked to the success of Pakistan, and unfortunately to the problems inside India. वो जो कितने fault lines है इंडिया के अंदर, वो ही explore कर ले, उसी को exploit कर ले. So there are many things that can be done that are not being done. If you leave the Western people, we leave the Arabs, we leave all the people around the world. Let us talk अपने घर की बात कर लेना. Let us talk about our own home, Pakistan first. हम क्या कर सकते हैं? That is the first question. And frankly, that should also be the last question. What is it that we can do?
मेरी एक दफ़ा एक बात हुई पैलेस्टीनियन से, और उन्होंने इस बात को एक्नॉलेज किया कि इट इज़ अनबिलीवेबल कि जितनी इंडियन आर्मी है कश्मीर के अंदर प्रेजेंट है, और मतलब हर गली के अंदर एक चेक पोस्ट, और हर 1 किलोमीटर या आधे किलोमीटर के बाद एक चेक पोस्ट आ जाती है. उसके बावजूद कश्मीरी बाहर निकलते हैं और वो अपनी हक खुदराजियत की बात करते हैं, वो पाकिस्तान से जुड़ने की बात करते हैं. तो उन्होंने इसको कहा कि ये इवन ये हम नहीं इसको सोच सकते ये कैसे हो सकता है, ये कैसे करते हैं. ठीक है. तो आपको क्या लगता है, इज इट बिकॉज ऑफ नेशनलिज्म और इज इट बिकॉज ऑफ इस्लाम? क्योंकि एक ये आर्गुमेंट दिया जाता है कि ये जो लोग जान देते हैं, दिस इज नॉट अकॉर्डिंग टू द इस्लाम, दिस इज जस्ट फॉर द पीस ऑफ लैंड, एंड इट इज नेशनलिज्म, और नेशनलिज्म तो हराम है इस्लाम के अंदर.
बराबर. It's a good question. It's a very good question. क्योंकि especially in this new era, nationalism has become a problem for many people. People don't understand the different types of nationalism. Now, intrinsically, मुझे कोई problem नहीं है nationalism के साथ, as long as it does not supersede your Muslim identity. क्योंकि you can take pride in where you come from. You can take pride in your nation. उसमें कोई मसला नहीं है. लेकिन but not at the cost के कोई कहेगा मैं superior हूँ क्योंकि मैं इस खानदान में का हूँ, मेरा सरनेम ये है, मैं वो हूँ, मेरा दादा परदादा. ये तो हराम है, ये तो सीधा हराम है. It is cursed that a person that boasts of their ancestors' success, he is a cursed person. मुझे बताएं कि आपने क्या किया. तो that is the most important thing. But practically speaking, आपने कहा कि checkposts everywhere. And it's true that despite all of these checkposts, हम निकल जाते हैं to protest, to make sure our voices are heard. But even when those times are not there, आप याद रखें कि we have young girls that are going to school, young boys going to school, going past those checkposts. They can be kidnapped, killed, raped, and forcibly disappeared. Anything can happen to them. It is a risk every day to be a Kashmiri. It is a risk every day to, मतलब सांस भी लेना एक मुश्किल काम है. School जाना, ये सोच भी, even to think inside Kashmir is a problem. जो आपका WhatsApp messages जहाँ पे वो कहते हैं कि वो encrypted है, वो नहीं encrypted है. कम से कम कश्मीर के अंदर नहीं encrypted है. Everything is monitored inside Kashmir. Everything. You cannot say anything, even to your personal family members, that you think is going to remain a secret. Never. It just can't be a secret. The Indian government is in every single home. अब ये भी बात है कि जो कुर्बानी देता, मुझे बताएं, बुरहान वानी, मतलब anybody that has been martyred so far, especially over the last, let's say, 30 years, our lifetimes, 40 years, कहते हैं, who died in the name of nationalism? Who? Na Burhan Wani, na Riaz Neku, na Isa Fazli. نہ جنید صحرائی, نہ جو بھی anybody who did, who sacrificed their lives in the name of nationalism. اور اس وقت اگر نیشنلزم ہے کشمیر کے اندر, لڑ کون رہا ہے کشمیر کے اندر اس وقت؟ Who are the people that are there? Who are the ones fighting? Who are the ones resisting? Who are the ones on the ground fighting back against? دیکھیں کلگام میں کیا ہو رہا ہے پچھلے 9 دن سے 8 دن سے. وہ تو سب مسلمان ہیں. They believe in Islamic principles. They believe in protecting the Muslim identity. اب جو نیشنلسٹ کی بات ہے, مجھے کوئی اعتراض نہیں ہے اس کے ساتھ. مجھے اعتراض یہ ہے کہ تو پھر قربانی دینا. باتیں کرنے کے ساتھ آزادی نہیں ملتی ہے, قربانی کے ساتھ ملتی ہے.
صحیح. اچھا ایک ایک جو فیکٹر ہے جس کو ویپن کے طور پہ یوز کیا جا رہا ہے انڈین گورنمنٹ, وہ ہے اکنامک فال آؤٹ. اور لائک 2.4 بلین ڈالرز کے قریب نقصان ہوا کشمیر کی انڈسٹری کو آفٹر دا 37. اس کے علاوہ ہم نے دیکھا ابھی جب پہلگام کا واقعہ ہوا تو 5,000 کے قریب گھروں کو جلا دیا گیا. اور اس کے علاوہ بھی ہمارے جو کافی قریبی لوگ ہیں وہ بھی بتاتے ہیں کہ اگر انہوں نے کبھی بات بھی کی, آزادی کی بات کی, تو کسی کے بھائی کے گھر کو جلا دیا, کسی کی دکان جلا دی. اور
صحیح ہے.
کشمیر کے اندر گھر بنانا ایک خاصا مشکل کام ہے, کیونکہ سردی کا ریجن ہے, لکڑی چاہیے ہوتی ہے, اور کافی محنت والا کام ہے. اور شاید کچھ دہائیوں میں ایک دفعہ ہی مکان بنایا جا سکتا ہے, اور اس کو چند گھنٹوں میں جلا دینا اور ختم کر دینا خاصا مشکل ہے. اس کے علاوہ جو جابس لاس ہوئی, لائک تقریباً 7-8 لاکھ کے قریب جابس جو ہے وہ لاس ہو گئی. اور جو فارمنگ کے جو سچویشن ہے وہ آپ کے سامنے ہے. تو آپ کیا سمجھتے ہیں کہ یہ اکنامک جو فال آؤٹ ہے, اس کو آپ کیسے دیکھتے ہیں؟ اس کو انڈیا کیسے ویپنائز کر رہا ہے, ایز اے ویپن یوز کر رہا ہے؟ اور دوسرا, کشمیری اس کے لیے کیا کر رہے ہیں, اس کے اپنی ایگزسٹنس کے لیے کیا کوئی ایسا انہوں نے طریقہ کار اڈاپٹ کیا ہے جس سے وہ اس کو کاؤنٹر کر سکیں؟
You know, the economic thing is interesting کیونکہ یہ جو demographic change جو ہے, it isn't just about bringing Indians into Kashmir. It is also about getting Kashmiris out of Kashmir. So one of the ways to get Kashmiris out of Kashmir is to, sorry, one of the ways is to economically disenfranchise them, to economically make them completely null and void. If they can find nothing inside Kashmir, so they will be forced to leave Kashmir. And who will be there to replace them? Non-Kashmiris, Indians. So this is one of the ways that demographic change is happening inside Kashmir. By creating economic restrictions, by creating an atmosphere of, जहाँ पे progress नहीं हो सकती है. Even academically, आप देखें कि जो लोग पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, I've heard of many cases जो PhD scholars जो है, वो ऑटो रिक्शा चलाते हैं because there's no scope inside Kashmir. And they don't want to leave Kashmir क्योंकि उनको पता है कि हालात क्या है. On the one side, if they leave Kashmir, उनको पता है कि ये demographic engineering का एक model है, but the other side, अगर नहीं निकलेंगे तो फिर they can't support their families. And then on the other side of that, अगर इंडिया जाएंगे और काम करेंगे इंडिया के अंदर, वहां पे एज ए कश्मीरी मुस्लिम, आपको पता है कि उसका अंजाम क्या है. एक तो मुसलमानों के ऑलरेडी इंडिया के अंदर मसला है, और अगर कोई कश्मीरी मुसलमान होता तो फिर मतलब खेल खत्म. That is it. There is no space for that. Now what can Kashmiri possibly do? हमारा मतलब we have nothing that we can do. All we can do is try and resist. And one of the ways that we resist is by making sure that we maintain our history, our culture, our resistance in all shapes and forms. And one of the most important ways is ये जो narrative है, कश्मीर की narrative, is to make sure that it is alive. It continues to be alive. कश्मीर के अंदर वो रहेगा. Nobody can forget years and decades of human rights violations and right to self-determination. Nobody will ever forget that. But what's important is that they see कि हम जैसे लोग जो privilege में रहते हैं, जो आज़ादी में रहते हैं, that we are fulfilling our responsibilities. ये फर्ज है हमारे ऊपर, because we live in privilege, because we have the freedom to do so, कि हम कश्मीर का तहरीक जिंदा रखते हैं. But to do that, it means to learn more about Kashmir. It means to be active about Kashmir. And I'm going to refer back to the issue of Palestine simply by saying those people that had no idea about Palestine became experts within weeks. Experts. तो कश्मीर कौन सी बड़ी बात है? Kashmir is right next door. And we have leadership inside Pakistan. We have leadership inside Kashmir. चलो वो जेल में है. We have information. We have books. 25 books have been banned. अगर कोई ढूंढ रहा था कोई किताब and people were having a problem कि कौन सा किताब पढ़ो, अब यही 25 इंडिया ने automatically ऐलान किया कि कौन 25 किताब सबसे अहम है तहरीक के लिए. So go read those books. So there is no excuse anymore for any of us.
Okay, we have seen Indian propaganda against Kashmiris और खास तौर पे जो जिस तरह कश्मीरी को डिमोनाइज किया जाता है वेस्ट में जिस तरह किया जाता है वो शायद उतना इसराइल भी नहीं कर पाता और इसी में कश्मीर फाइल्स भी एक मूवी आई और जो प्रोपेगेंडा किया गया कश्मीरी पंडित्स का मैं चाहूंगा कि आप इसके बारे में बात बताएं हमें बताएं कि ये कश्मीरी पंडित्स का क्या प्रोपेगेंडा है ये क्या इसकी रियलिटी है और इसको इतना इसके बारे में इतनी क्यों बात की जाती है क्या वाकई कश्मीरी इतने जालिम है कि उन्होंने कश्मीरी पंडित को निकाला वहां से
अगर कश्मीरी मुसलमान इतना जालिम था तो फिर पिछले 1000 साल से इंडिया ये Hindus and Muslims would not have been living in peace inside Kashmir. There was when the before the United Nations was formed, it was called the League of Nations. तो किसी ने कहा कि I can't remember one of the leaders. He said that if you want to look at the epitome of communal harmony, if you want to see the epitome of communal harmony, look towards Kashmir. तो वहां पे ऐसी बात है ही नहीं. History has also recorded that it wasn't Kashmiri Muslims that had forced the Kashmiri Pandits out of Kashmir. It was Jagmohan, वो जो governor था, he had made a plan to take out all the Hindus from Kashmir so that he can carpet bomb the entire of Kashmir. मतलब मुसलमानों को एक बार खत्म करना. That was his intention. अब बहुत ऐसे हिंदूज अभी भी है कश्मीर के अंदर वो कहते हैं कि we have never faced a problem with the Muslims. अब ये बात नहीं है कि मुसलमान is pure and clean and हम गुनाह नहीं कर सकते. गुनाह किया है, of course we have. Kashmiris have made many mistakes in the past. लेकिन not to the extent that the way that the Indian propaganda shows that हमने पंडितों के साथ ये किया वो किया. वो कहते हैं कि पंडित genocide तो शायद 50 या 60 लोग थे. That was it. और वो भी during conflict जहां पे 1 लाख मुसलमान शहीद हुए थे उसी पीरियड में. अपना 50 तो जेनोसाइड और हमारा 1.5 लाख कुछ नहीं. वो जो the way that the joke is that when Western newspapers talk about Palestinians that are being killed, they say a Palestinian boy passed away. Whereas in reality, हमें पता है कि that it was a Palestinian who was mercilessly, brutally killed, assassinated on the streets. ये narrative है. तो वही चीज ये कश्मीरी पंडित्स करते हैं मुसलमानों के खिलाफ. वो कहते हैं कि मुसलमान मुस्लिम डाइज इन कश्मीर वो तो व्हाटएवर. पंडित हैज जुकाम हो ये तो एक जंग है पंडितों के खिलाफ हिंदुओं के खिलाफ. So this is all nonsense. If you look at the records, if you look at the public information that's open to the public, and RTI activists जिन लोगों ने information nikali hai ki how many pandits actually left Kashmir and how many pandits were actually killed, you will understand immediately what the propaganda is. एक narrative building है हिंदुस्तान के अंदर to show that Muslims by and large hate Hindus and therefore before Muslims have an opportunity to kill all the Hindus, we should kill all the Muslims. ये इनका justification है. I think we should move on to the question and answers from the audience. We've been here for about, alhamdulillah, an hour.
Okay, we have Ali Junaid. आप लोग अपना माइक अनम्यूट करके क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं बट प्लीज क्वेश्चन हो जो हो वो टॉपिक से रिलेटेड हो. अली प्लीज अनम्यूट योर माइक. अगर और भी किसी का क्वेश्चन है तो वो अपना हैंड रेज कर सकता है. ओके मुजम्मिल भाई ये सब कुछ होने के बावजूद हाउ इज द मोरल ऑफ द कश्मीरीज अभी वो कैसा फील करते हैं. आर दे टायर्ड नाउ.
That's a good question. Until India made the mistake of attacking Pakistan, Kashmiris were by and large tired. exhausted mentally, emotionally, physically. देखिए कि how many years can people survive and sustain a resistance, especially when the entire resistance leadership has been jailed or killed. अब देखिए कि सईद अली शाह गिलानी मरहूम के साथ क्या हुआ, शहीद, या अशरफ सहराई साहब, वो भी शहीद, मसरत आलम साहब अभी भी जेल, शबीर शाह जेल, यासीन मलिक जेल, आसिया अंद्रावी जेल, नाहिदा नसरीन जेल, फहमीदा सोफी जेल. So we have so many people that are in jail. But after the war that India tried to perform against Pakistan, एक जज्बा निकला कश्मीर के अंदर कि शायद शायद कुछ हो सकता है. अब पता चल गया शायद पाकिस्तान अवाम को भी पता नहीं था कि पाकिस्तान कितना मजबूत है. हमें भी पता चल गया कि पाकिस्तान सच में मजबूत है. हम फजूल में ये नहीं कहते थे कि पाकिस्तान हमें बचा ले, पाकिस्तान हमें बचा ले. Now we saw there is proof that Pakistan is strong. Proof not just for us, but for Pakistanis and for the Indians. Now there is a hope. There is a greater hope inside Kashmir for Pakistan. Lekin that is also a double-edged sword, because now the people of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan have to fulfill that aspiration. अब हमें पता चल गया कि पाकिस्तान मजबूत है. Now it is a responsibility on Pakistan to try and liberate the people of Kashmir.
ओके अली, मैंने आपका माइक अनम्यूट किया, प्लीज आप क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं।
जी, मेरी आवाज आ रही है मुजम्मिल साहब को भी?
जी जी आ रही है।
आ रही है.
जी, मुजम्मिल साहब, मेरा बेसिकली क्वेश्चन है, क्योंकि मैं बचपन से ये सब चीजें देखता आ रहा हूँ न्यूज वगैरह में, सिंस मे बी व्हेन आई वाज 9 years old, इट्स अबाउट 80s. मुझे पता है कि अवेयरनेस सेशन जो है वो देते रहना चाहिए, और ये टॉक्स जो है ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती हैं जब आप पब्लिकली या प्राइवेटली जब लोगों को अवेयरनेस सेशन देते हैं. इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि एक रिकॉल होता है, रिफ्रेशनेस होती है. लेकिन ये भी हमें पता है कि हर सेशन, चाहे वो पब्लिक हो प्राइवेट हो, उसके बाद फिर लोग ठंडे पड़ जाते हैं, कुछ नहीं करते. हमें ये क्लियरली पता है कि इंटरनेशनली इस वक्त जितने भी मुस्लिम कंट्रीज हैं वो तकरीबन, यानी आइदर दे एग्री और नॉट, क्या आइडियोलॉजिकली वो सेम पेज पे हैं ही नहीं, बहरहाल सऊदी अरब को फॉलो करते हैं. और सऊदी अरब जो स्टैंस लेता है ग्लोबली, सारे मुस्लिम कंट्रीज वही स्टैंस लेते हैं. अगर पैलेस्टाइन का मसला हल नहीं होना तो नहीं होना, अगर कश्मीर का मसला हल नहीं होना तो नहीं होना. whereas we know it very much, like from our history, from Islamic history we know कि जब तक हम इकट्ठे नहीं होंगे, जो एक स्ट्रेंथ डेवलप होती, ग्लोबल स्ट्रेंथ डेवलप होगी हमारी यूनिटी की वजह से, वो जब हम ये बावर करवा देंगे इंटरनेशनल मीडिया के जरिए कि हम अब यूनाइटेड हैं, तो ही ऑटोमेटिकली विदाउट like there will be zero tolerance to any kind of damage that will come because of the unity of Muslims to any country or anywhere. So मैं समझता हूँ कि सिर्फ अगर एक मैसेज कन्वे कर दिया जाता है सऊदी अरब के प्लेटफॉर्म से, ओआईसी से, कि नाउ वी आर टेकिंग एक्शन यूनाइटेडली अगेंस्ट दिस बार्बरिज्म in what is happening in Palestine and in Kashmir. अगर ये सिर्फ यूनिटी ही की बात कर लेते और एक मैसेज डिलीवर कर देते, तो हम जो आम लोग होते हैं, अवामुन नास, उनको समझ में आ जाती है कि भाई देखें अब चेंजिंग आ रही है, नाउ देयर इज अ टर्निंग पॉइंट. ऐसे लग रहा है कि हमारे जो यूनिटी क्रिएट कर सकते हैं वो ही नहीं चाहते, उनकी नीयत ही नहीं है कि कश्मीर का मसला हो और फलस्तीन का मसला, और वो इस डिस्प्यूट के पीछे पता नहीं, आई डोंट नो व्हाट दे आर ट्राइंग टू अचीव. और आम लोग जो हैं वो कट मर रहे हैं, खराब हो रहे हैं, बर्बाद हो रहे हैं, जिंदगी उजड़ रही है. एक तो इस चीज को मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप भी एड्रेस किया.
आवाज कट गई. चलो, जितना मैंने सुना उसी के ऊपर मैं बात करता हूँ. Look, many people have come and gone and trying to form unity with different countries or people, जो भी है. मेरा कहना ये है is that cannot be the first principle. And it sounds strange, लेकिन I'll explain. अगर इसी के पीछे हम भाग जाएंगे ना, हम किसी कोई चीज हासिल नहीं करेंगे, because unity is नामुमकिन. You cannot have unity across the board. It is very difficult, very very difficult. And on the other side, आपने कहा कि for example OIC. Now Kashmir has observer status in the OIC. The last session मैं वहां पे था. But these are things that nation states do. And I agree with you in principle. बिल्कुल सही बात कि when nation states agree with each other that we are unified on this particular point, कुछ ना कुछ हासिल कर सकते हैं. लेकिन हम nation states नहीं है, ना हम foreign ministry में काम करते हैं, ना हम government में है. We are civilians. We are all civilians. We do what we can within our capacity. अगर इस्लाम की जिक्र आपने बात की, remember अबाबील, you do how much you can. उससे ज्यादा भी कर ले, अगर कर सकते हैं अच्छा है, उससे कम ना करें. There is a lot that we can do. We can lay the groundwork, we can lay the foundations for these governments in the future. You look, over the last 2 years, it took 2 years. 2 years is not a long time to force countries like France and Germany and the UK and the US to consider the recognition of a Palestinian statehood, to start condemning Israel for its war crimes inside Palestine. 2 years. Qurbani bhi bahut hai, lekin 2 years in time frame. So it clearly means that you do not need governments and state and nation states to be aligned to create some kind of policy to solve an issue. It can start with us. Ye zamana nahi reh chuka hai ki of the 80s and 90s. If you were born from the 80s, then you may remember that the 80s and 90s was a very different time. There was no access to information the same way that we have today. There was no organizing process the same way that we have today. It is easier to get things done today. Qasam khuda ki, it's much more easier. It's just, is there willpower? Instead of Angrezi mein hum kehte hain, passing the buck, yani ki apna responsibility kisi aur ke upar dalna. The moment that we stop doing that is the moment that we can start actively pursuing uh, uh, genuine, tangible results, be it for Kashmir or for Palestine. That's the way that I see it, at least.
ओके, हमारे पास कुछ और क्वेश्चन है. सफीर रहमान ने पूछा है, एनी ऑथेंटिक बुक्स यू कैन रिकमेंड टू रीड ऑन द हिस्टोरिक स्ट्रगल ऑफ कश्मीर?
Absolutely. 25 books have been banned by India as of 2 days ago. Read every single one of those books. And if you don't know what those books are, follow me on Twitter. I've put it on Twitter as well. ऐसे बहुत Kashmiris. You can follow any Kashmiri. I think every single Kashmiri has उन लोगों ने ऐलान किया है कि कौन सी किताब है that India has banned, and every single one of those books are as important as each other.
ओके, एक और क्वेश्चन है. मरियम अलवी ने पूछा, सो आई बिलीव दैट सोशल मीडिया इज अ पावरफुल टूल दीस डेज एज सीन इन द केस ऑफ पैलेस्टाइन वेयर द नैरेटिव चेंज due to social media. Are there any social media handles which we can follow, which share authentic news, and we can spread the word and share it on our platforms? It would be great if the links are shared as well. The links has been provided in the group और regularly share होते रहते हैं. और इसके अलावा मुज़म्मिल भाई?
Yeah, I'll also send them to you, and then you can send it to the group. One
Yeah.
of them is KMS, Kashmir Media Service, extremely important. Dusra hai All Parties Hurriyat Conference. They are the de facto leadership of Kashmir, the entire of Kashmir. And then you have different organizations and people like myself, like Legal Forum for Kashmir, and Kashmir Diaspora Coalition. There are several others as well. World Kashmir Awareness Forum. 5-6 organizations and their Twitter handles and their Facebook pages. But the 2 or 3 most important would be All Parties Hurriyat Conference and Kashmir Media Service. Extremely important places.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. One from Sarah. Sarah, I'm unmuting you.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Firstly, barakallahu feek for the talk, the presentation, and for the previous one as well, mashallah. It's been really informative, and I've been reflecting a lot recently about why, as an ummah, we have failed Kashmir, and why we've not really had much from our end, across the UK. Alhamdulillah, I have seen everywhere you go, whenever you mention that you're Kashmiri, or you mention that you educate others around you about what's happening in Kashmir, people do listen, and genuinely there is a good public perception about, what's happening in Palestine is very similar to what's happening in Kashmir, right? And conversations do end up coming about quite naturally, and there is a lot of support for Kashmir, but there's no coordination. There's no such coordination of how do we actually go about targeting India and targeting them in the way that we target Israel with BDS, for example. I know that you have the World Kashmir Freedom Movement. I'd love to hear more about how you're coordinating the sort of the narrative and making attempts to sort of sanction and educate and inform others about what's happening in Kashmir. So please could you educate us on if there is a BDS equivalent, and if so, how would we go about partaking in it? Thank you very much.
Very good question. We have started to reach out to different NGOs and organizations, people like Cage, Mend, Doam, documenting oppression against Muslims to make sure that the narrative of Kashmir is constant. But it's not their responsibility. I mean, it may be newsworthy, it may be an aspect of their work, but the work really truly has to be done by us. So to that end, we've started university tours, lecture tours into various universities across the UK, and hopefully it will expand even further. In terms of the BDS, it's something that cannot be just done wholly and solely by one organization. We need to have it in the words of the brother Ali, I think it was Ali Javed that talked about unity. There has to be some level of unity with those people that we are aligning with. For example, NGOs and think tanks and grassroots organizations, even the local BDS as well, that they can also lend their support to this. The first step is always the awareness. The first step is always we make sure that people know that this is something that is happening, and these are the people that are endorsing it. And then we give them alternatives as well. किसी को मजबूरी नहीं है मैकडॉनल्ड्स खाने का या KFC या बाकी चीज या कोक पीने का. There are always alternatives. But when it comes to Indian products, people find it a struggle to replace their masale or their, I don't know what else. I mean, I've never bought Indian products, so I can't remember what they have. But getting allegedly Pakistani products are harder to get than Indian products. So that's one of the first things that we do, is find alternatives. But in terms of the work that needs to be done, if you're in the UK, it would be wonderful if we can find we need volunteers. At the end of the day, kaam ek, do, teen bande nahi kar sakte. It is an entire movement. When it comes to the Palestinian thing, you cannot tell me that over the last 2 years there was one person organizing and coordinating everything. There are so many people, and sometimes it's not even organizations. It's just a collection of people that just randomly decide to do something and they do it. Because they have commitment, they have an idea, and that is something that they want to see to the end. So to that end, I would recommend to those people that, of course, if you're in Pakistan, then I can't say anything. Hamid Saab is more qualified than I am to tell you how to do things and what to do. But there is a lot that needs to be done, and not just in the UK. Social media is a huge medium that we haven't really I don't want to say explore. I want to say that we haven't utilized to the best of our abilities. It can be utilized so much better, but we don't do it. One of those things is, and I was mentioning to Hamid Sahab, and I hope that he doesn't mind me mentioning it here, is that content writing. My generation, when we used to say we need content, we meant literature form. I think आज के ज़माने में जब किसी को कहते हैं content, उनको लगता है कि पूरा content यानी कि writing भी, script भी, design भी, photograph भी, video भी. No. We need content, we need written content. Then we need to start from somewhere. So we give one person the task of collating data and information about one aspect of Kashmir, or one subject of Kashmir, or one waqia of Kashmir. Create all the content, become an expert in that, and then we can start creating content writing, and then we can create content around the writing. We can create the videos and the narratives, and we can publish material, and we can go to the think tanks and even foreign offices in the United Kingdom, not foreign offices, foreign embassies, and tell them about Kashmir. There is so much to be done, and I think that people don't understand that taking the first step truly is the most important step. हम कहते हैं कि हम liberation की तरफ हम देखें, हम उसी के ऊपर काम करें. But that isn't our field. We are not on the ground. Let those people do what they're doing. We talk about Donald Trump should do this and do that. If any of us have the telephone number to Donald Trump, please tell me so that we can, force Donald Trump to do what needs to be done. We do what is within our capacity, what is within our roles. And the thing that I know that all of you have is access to social media. And फिर उसके बाद आपके skill set क्या है? And I said this last time. Write your skill sets down, or at least your interests down, and then we can explore together. We can do maybe a small workshop, a private workshop, jahan pe we can delegate duties to different people, give a time frame, and collate the end result, and then we can produce it. We can do something with that knowledge or with that work that is being done. We need websites. We need Instagram to be run. We need TikTok. I have no idea how to run TikTok. बड़ी मुश्किल से मैं Twitter चलाता हूँ. अब मुझे Instagram भी करना है, TikTok भी करना है. मतलब how many things can we do? But when we have volunteers that are willing to commit their time and effort And most importantly, understanding the issue of Kashmir. Because the first thing that we really need to do is learn, read, study. First have the knowledge, and then we can create a strategy where we can not just liberate Kashmir, but most importantly, take the first few steps, which is creating awareness, exposing the crimes, and then as an end result, liberate Kashmir, inshallah.
Okay, so BTS, we are also running an organization, Snip Say No to Israeli Products, which is also the one of the pioneer and official organization in Pakistan. اور جب ہم اس کا ریسرچ کر رہے تھے تو ہم نے انڈین جتنے بھی پروڈکٹس تھی اس کو بھی ہم نے بائیکاٹ میں ڈالا کیونکہ انڈیا از obviously complicit in the genocide of Palestine. تو انڈیا پاکستان میں تو انڈیا کو بائیکاٹ کیا جا رہا ہے انڈین پروڈکٹس.
Somebody asked a very good question. That do I believe one of the most sustainable ways for Pakistani youth to contribute to the Kashmir cause is by building high-quality Pakistani products and successful startups that can compete globally and then channeling parts of those profits towards long-term awareness and advocacy for the issue. This is a fantastic idea that I wish more people understood. That don't see the short term, think long term. Always think long term. اگر کسی کو لگتا ہے کہ ہم اپنے زندگی میں آزادی حاصل کریں گے یا فلسطین کے لیے یا کشمیر کے لیے, that is our ego and our arrogance speaking. Plant the seeds, plant the foundations, let others build on your shoulders. We are here to support the next generation, because I don't think that the Indian state is so, even though मैं कहता हूँ कि this is the right time, it is the right time to start something against India and make sure that we can pave a productive way for the liberation of Kashmir. But for that, you need many things. For that, you need to talk to different business houses. Either you do it yourselves or you talk to others. You talk to them, you say to them कि आप भी contribute, अपना zakat contribute कर ले. या आपका अगर किसी का IT company है, आपका ये जो employee है, उसका 3 घंटे हफ्ते में वो dedicate कर ले कश्मीर के लिए. Yeah, there are so many things that can happen that we can do. And another one of the things is that if you are doing a job or if you are doing a business, not only are you contributing to the, if you're in Pakistan, not only are you contributing to the economy of Pakistan, but you're creating assets that can then be utilized, disposable income that can be utilized towards Kashmir. So yes, absolutely. I think business is extremely important. When you become self-sufficient and you have disposable income, you can contribute a phenomenal amount to any cause that you want, be it charitable or political or diplomatic or liberation.
And that's a really good point, Muzammil, and it's really inspiring as well, because I mean, India is one of the massive exporters of the world, and textile industry, electronics, things like that. You know, Pakistan and India share a lot of the similar sort of exports. I mean, if we just invest a little bit more into Pakistan, we could definitely provide, you know, feasible alternatives to the current ones. So I really like that suggestion. Just another question, if you don't mind. It's mainly around what you mentioned about Muazzam Beg, subhanAllah. I was also reading about that and thinking how they managed to call Palestine Action a terrorist organization, and you know, subhanAllah, they can do the same with the Kashmir movements, right? What precautions are you taking? Because I know you talk about you know, even the fact that armed struggle is justified, like arms resistance is justified in this particular case. So how do we navigate that, and how do we not get cancelled, essentially?
By using the law to our advantage. This is the problem with a lot, you know. How do I say this delicately? Not everybody's skill set can match somebody else's skill set. Just because I'm good at one thing doesn't mean I can do everything. Some people are built and they know how to do protests really well. And some people understand the law very well. Some people know how to use social media very well. Everybody has a particular skill set. When you put all of those people into the same room, then you can figure out what is the safest path, yet effective. And one of the mistakes that I see, not mistakes, but one of the I don't know, pitfalls of the Palestinian advocacy that people are doing is they सबको hero बनना है. It isn't necessary कि हर किसी को कुर्बानी देनी है. Everybody gives कुर्बानी in a different way. Jail जाकर या criminal record حاصل کرके, then what? How does that benefit the Palestinians? How does that benefit you in any shape or form? If anything, you have now become a liability. Do not become a liability. Work within the law. Work within the parameters that exist for you. Push them. Question. Do what you can, but don't break the law. When you have billionaires that get away with tax, billionaires, so clearly there are loopholes that they know about. So we should always engage specialists in different fields and make sure that we are not breaking the law, we are working within the law, but we are also being as effective as we can. Alhamdulillah, aaj tak Kashmiri activism ko koi problem nahi hua hai. Kam se kam for me, because I never broke the law. हर किसी को लगता है कि मैं बड़ा दबंग हूं, मैंने ये किया, मैंने वो किया, लेकिन जो भी मैं करता हूं या जो भी मैं बोलता हूं, it is within the law. सोचकर और समझदारी से मैं बात करता हूं या मैं काम करता हूं, बिकॉज मुझे पता है कि अगर मैं भी जेल जाऊं या मेरे ऊपर भी केस लग जाएगी या मेरे खिलाफ कुछ होगा, फिर मैं क्या करूं? ना मैं कश्मीर के लिए काम कर सकता हूं और मैं एक लाइबिलिटी बनता हूं पूरा तहरीक के लिए. सो इट इज बेटर टू वर्क विद इन द लॉ, within the parameters that exist. Don't exceed them. And Allah Malik, Allah is the one that gives everything. You don't need to create huge sacrifices. Everybody doesn't need, if everybody is going to go into the field and sacrifice themselves, who is going to record history? Who is going to write history? Who is going to talk about what has happened? Who is going to advocate? Everybody cannot be an engineer. If everybody's an engineer, who's going to be a doctor? And in the same way, not everybody needs to go and break the law. It doesn't, in some place, maybe sometimes if it's calculated and it's a strategy, it may be effective, but it can't be all the time.
Okay, so آپ لوگ جو بھی یہاں پہ موجود ہیں, میری آپ سے ریکویسٹ ہے کہ وی نیڈ والنٹیئرز فار دا کشمیر. ٹھیک ہے, اور ہم ایک بنا رہے ہیں, ایک چیپٹر سٹارٹ کر رہے ہیں کشمیر کا بھی. تو آپ لوگوں سے جو بھی والنٹیئر کرنا چاہتا ہے, پلیز وہ گروپ کو جوائن کریں اور وہاں پہ میسج کریں, وہاں پہ ہوگا. اور اس کو ہم بہت جلد سٹارٹ کریں گے, اور مزمل بھائی ول بی لیڈنگ اس. اور انشاءاللہ ہم کوشش کریں گے کہ جو ہم کر سکتے ہیں, جو ابابیل والا کام ہے, کم از کم ہم وہ کریں. کچھ نہ کچھ تو ہم کریں کشمیر کے لیے. ٹھیک ہے, اور انیلا جبار, میں آپ کو انمیوٹ کر رہا ہوں, پلیز اپنا کوشچن پوچھیں.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. رحمہ رانا ہیئر. سر میرے 2 کوشچنس تھے اور ایک آئیڈیا تھا. 2 کوشچنس کو آپ نے ایڈریس کر دیا کہ واٹ وی کین ڈو فار کشمیریز, اور دوسرا میرا کوشچن یہ تھا کہ آپ ابھی تک زندہ کیسے ہیں, لائک آپ ابھی تک کیپچر کیوں نہیں ہوئے. اور اچھا, اور یہ کہ ہم آئیڈیا یہ ہے کہ ہم جیسے آپ, مطلب ایک تو میں چاہوں گی کہ آپ اپنی تھوڑی سی اسٹوری شیئر کریں, اور سیکنڈلی
Have we lost Anila?
سیکنڈلی
Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I'll answer the question کہ میں کیوں.
Yes,
اوکے, سیکنڈ میرا آئیڈیا یہ ہے کہ جیسے آپ ایک تو اپنی تھوڑی سی اسٹوری شیئر کریں کہ آپ اتنے امپاور کیسے ہوئے ہیں ایز اے کشمیری, ایز اے لائک یو بلانگ ٹو کشمیر, آپ کی فیملی وہاں پہ, آپ کا تھوڑا سا جرنی, تاکہ اس آئیڈیا کو انہینس کر سکیں. آئیڈیا میرا یہ ہے کہ جیسے آپ ایک ووکل پرسن ہیں, آپ لائک ایک پوسٹر بھی اگر آپ کی پکچر کا شیئر ہوتا ہے, تو اگر کوئی میٹنگ اٹینڈ کرتا نہیں کرتا, تو آپ کا صرف اور صرف نیم یا آپ کا جو شکل ہے وہ کشمیر کی یاد دلا دیتی ہے. تو ہم اس طرح کے اور چہرے کیوں نہیں کریٹ کر سکتے؟ ہم وہ کچھ کشمیری اسٹوڈنٹس کو لیں کشمیر سے, اور ان کو کشمیر سے باہر لے کر آئیں, اور ان کو امپاور کریں, ان کو ان کے مقصد سے ایسوسیٹ رکھیں, اور وہ پھر زیادہ سارے مزمل ایوب جو ہیں وہ بن کے سوسائٹی میں نکلیں. مطلب لانگ ٹرم پلان کی میں بات کر رہی ہوں. آئی ہوپ آئی کین ریڈ مائی میسج.
دیکھیں, the first question is کہ آپ کشمیری اسٹوڈنٹ کو کیسے باہر لے سکتے ہیں from کشمیر, کیونکہ پاسپورٹ تو انڈیا ہی دیتے ہیں. And if that person, anybody in his family was linked to pro آزادی sentiment, ان کو ملتی نہیں ہے. اب ایسے کشمیری لوگ جو باہر ہیں اس وقت, وہ کام کرتے ہیں behind the scenes, وہ آگے نہیں آتے ہیں. We have many people that are working on various different projects, لیکن people don't know about them, but they are doing a lot of work. But you're right, we need more people. It cannot be a one-man band. And inshallah we'll create. We are in the process. एक दो ideas हैं जो जिसके ऊपर हम काम कर रहे हैं. But we have several Kashmiris that have been taken out of Kashmir. They've gone to different places. They're studying or they're working, and they're contributing in their own way to Kashmir. लेकिन एक बात है is that it really shouldn't be the responsibility just of Indian occupied Kashmiris to pull out other Indian occupied Kashmiris. It should be a collective effort from all Pakistanis, from the government of Pakistan, from Azad Kashmiris, that कि आप लोग हमारा हमें महफूज रखें. That when a Kashmiri lands in London or he lands in Turkey or he lands in Malaysia, that there should be Pakistanis and Azad Kashmiris that take him home, that say to him कि इस तरह करना है, हम ये करवाएंगे आपके लिए, वो करेंगे, जगह बनाएंगे. But that doesn't happen. Whereas for Palestinians, or for that matter, even the Sikh community, एक सरदार जाता है कनाडा, वहाँ पे 1000 लोग हैं जो उसको सिखाते हैं और उसको जगह देते हैं, उसको हर they just build everything for him, make sure that he's very comfortable. So we need to create that for other Indian occupied Kashmiris as well. That is true. The first part of the question, which was okay, how I'm safe. So I wasn't always safe. I was born in exile. That is important to know. Okay, I was born in Saudi Arabia because my father was thrown out of Kashmir. I was on asylum in the UK until I was about 20 years old. फिर उसके बाद मुझे British passport मिली. And even after British passport, जब मैं कश्मीर गया था, I would only go for periods of time. But there was a time in 2011 जहाँ पे मैं arrest हुआ and jail भी काटी, torture भी खाया. So these are realities that we faced despite having a British passport. फिर 2016 के बाद तो it was enough for me after Burhan Wani. So I went to Pakistan. I traveled to Pakistan. Since then, I was unable to go back to Kashmir. अब मेरा वो I'm charged under the Terror Act inside India. I have several cases against me. लेकिन जिस तरीके से मैं बात कर रहा था before you asked the question, if you work within the law, being in Europe and raised in the UK, I understand the law, I understand यहाँ के माहौल, तो मुझे पता है कि वो किस तरीके से इंसान को अपने आप को बचाना है, कम से कम from being jailed or anything like that. लेकिन I guess last year, around this time last year, I was attacked on the streets of London, एक कॉन्फ्रेंस के बाद, जहाँ पे 3 हिंदू लड़के आए थे मुझे मारने के लिए. Alhamdulillah, I only suffered a broken rib, और मैंने अच्छा जवाब दिया उन लोगों को. It became news at the time, but there is always a risk. There is always a risk. It was the first time that I was actively physically assaulted on the streets in London. Lekin, again, for pressure tactics, my family inside Kashmir, unfortunately, they suffer a lot. And there isn't much that I can do about that. So yeah, well, it's a difficult path to lead.
Okay, मुजम्मिल भाई 2015 में या 16 में हमने एक दो दफा ये किया था आपा आसियान द्राबी साहिबा के साथ कि हम लोग इकट्ठे मिलके ईद मनाया करते थे. पाकिस्तान से कुछ लोग होते थे और कुछ लोग कश्मीर से होते थे, और हम वीडियो लिंक के जरिए ज्वाइन करते थे और हम इकट्ठे सेलिब्रेट किया करते थे. वो एक बड़ा अच्छा जेस्चर होता था और उससे एक बड़ा अच्छा कनेक्शन बिल्ड होता था. तो क्या ऐसी प्रैक्टिस हम अभी दोबारा स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं?
Halfway through you cut out. Could you say that again?
2015 और 16 में हमने ये प्रैक्टिस किया था आपा आसियान द्राबी के साथ कि हम लोग इकट्ठे मिलके ईद मनाया करते थे वीडियो लिंक के थ्रू. कुछ लोग यहाँ पाकिस्तान से होते थे और कुछ कश्मीर से हमें ज्वाइन करते थे, और वो एक बड़ा अच्छा सिंबल ऑफ यूनिटी होता था और एक बड़ा अच्छा कनेक्शन बिल्ड होता था. तो क्या अब हम इस टाइम ये कर सकते हैं? ये फिजिबल है?
With the people inside Indian occupied Kashmir इस वक्त नामुमकिन तो कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन बहुत बहुत मुश्किल है और कोई अपना चेहरा नहीं दिखा पाएगा. Because the next day if it leaks out, then the person will be arrested or worse. So वो थोड़ा मुश्किल है. लेकिन जो इस वक्त de facto representation of all parties Hurriyat Conference और leadership जो APHC है इस्लामाबाद में के अंदर, absolutely with them. And then of course जो diaspora में भी है बाकी लोग, with them as well, absolutely. लेकिन directly with inside Indian occupied Kashmir इस वक्त, I would suggest it would be dangerous, not for us but for them.
Okay. A question and then practically, how can we identify, support, and protect those individuals who are building such businesses so their work truly benefits the Kashmir cause in the long run?
How can we identify?
Support and protect those individuals who are building such businesses so their work truly benefits the Kashmir cause in the long run.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, look, one of the things is that you knock on doors. जो अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं knocking on doors. यानी you go to every single person. You once you know about Kashmir and you're comfortable to speak about Kashmir, आप जाएं लोगों के पास, उनको समझाएं कि बात क्या है, और कोई ना कोई commitment उनसे लेकर निकलें. Not everybody is going to be able to commit to you. That is not a problem. लेकिन पाकिस्तान के अंदर मुझे लगता है कि आधा से ज्यादा लोग commit कर सकते हैं कुछ ना कुछ. And it isn't just about the money. I mean, पैसे के साथ हम क्या कर पाएंगे? बात यह है that we need manpower. We need resources. We need servers. We need somebody to develop a website. We need somebody to write. We need somebody to create social media content. We need publications. There is so much work to be done कि एक या दो बंदे नहीं कर सकते हैं, लेकिन किसी ना किसी जगह पे हम शुरू कर सकते हैं. Even if you go door to door, you go to the, और मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि बड़े बड़े बिजनेसमैन आप मलिक रियाज के पास जाएं या फलाना टिमकाना के, you don't need to go to those people. We already know people that are doing charity work. You already know different businesses and individuals that are doing charity work. उनको बस उनके पास जाना है, उनको presentation देनी है, and that is it. It is as simple as that. If they say no or if they delay, जो भी है, don't take it to heart. जब आज तक किसी ने कोशिश नहीं भी किया, अब आप लोग अगर कोशिश करेंगे, ये भी एक सवाब का काम है. That at least you tried. Then it is up to Allah whether that person, उसका दिल में कुछ जाग जाएगा या नहीं. We do our part. We do our part. Now, how you identify that? It is literally, there is no secret formula. हर किसी के पास, क्योंकि ये तहरीक हर किसी का है. Again, it is a Muslim issue. मुसलमानों के पास है. अगर फलस्तीन के लिए non-Muslims, mostly people are coming out are non-Muslims. अगर उन लोगों के लिए non-Muslims निकल रहे, हमारे लिए अपने पाकिस्तानी मुसलमान नहीं निकल सकते हैं, या दे सकते हैं कुछ टाइम दे सकते हैं, या रिसोर्सेज दे सकते हैं, एक ऑफिस दे सकते हैं, कुछ anything, 1 hour a day for somebody's skill set. IT companies है वहाँ पे बहुत. They can't give 1 hour of their time to help. Anything is possible. We just need to try. हमने आज तक इतना कोशिश किया ही नहीं, क्योंकि ये जो this new generation that not me, but you are, this, you have things that my generation couldn't do. मुझे अभी भी याद है जब इंटरनेट डायल अप इंटरनेट होता था, when you had to wait, it would connect to your landline, then you'd have to wait, और कोई landline इस्तेमाल नहीं कर सकते. आज के ज़माना, it is very, very, very different. You people can do a lot more than we could, and you have a lot more scope than we ever did. So try. You have to do things that we never could do, or it wasn't in our time. Now is the time. Now is the time. Everything is possible. Everything is possible, inshallah. Dua करके मुझे यकीन है that we can definitely do something.
Okay, could you please share any reputable charities that we should support, inshallah? Zahid Safi साहब के साथ इसको अगर connect करवा दें.
वो काफी है. That's enough.
Zahid Safi साहब is the senior leader of All Party Suryat Conference. Or Muzammil bhai, can you provide us info about the personality you mentioned earlier who have given sacrifices and have gone either undocumented or forgotten? So to revive this, we first need to revisit their life. जो आपने calendar share किया है.
Yeah. That's a good calendar that can be shared with everybody, even though it's a few years old, but it can be shared with everybody. कि कम से कम आपको पता होना चाहिए कि इन दिनों में क्या हुआ है कश्मीर के अंदर. It's extremely important. And then of course we have the different people. It's not just the events; it's also the names of those people that have been martyred. अब list इतना बड़ा है. I would suggest, if anybody has an opportunity, to find JKCCS, Jammu Kashmir Coalition of Civil Societies. They made a report. They made several reports, very good reports. ऐसे reports जो United Nations Human Rights Commissioner भी quote करता है. So read those reports, see the atrocities, read the names, and let's create a living memory for them, कि उनकी कुर्बानी ज़ाया ना हो जाए.
It may have been mentioned earlier already before, but could you please detail exactly why the proposed plebiscite proposed by the UN following 1947 failed. What was Pakistan and India's role in this failing? Why was it never heard? Plebiscite क्यों fail हुआ?
So the historical context is that India will say that Pakistan didn't abide by the conditions of the plebiscite, and Pakistan will say that India were illegal in it altogether anyway, whatever the excuses were. But the truth is this, is that India were never going to fulfill them. Even if Pakistan pulled out of Azad Kashmir at that time or reduced its forces, India were never going to give a plebiscite. Never. Because they thought they had the upper hand. They thought they were more powerful, and they believed that the creation of Pakistan was incorrect. और उनको उस वक्त भी और जो आज भी वही बात वो कह रहे हैं कि two nation theory, we need Pakistan back. Pakistan हमारा है, बांग्लादेश भी हमारा है, नेपाल भी हमारा है, भूटान भी हमारा है, श्रीलंका भी हमारा है. ये जो अखंड भारत की विजन है, ये पैदा नहीं हुआ 2014 में जब मोदी आया. It has been around since the 1920s, if not earlier than that. Much earlier than that. The conception of it was before the 1920s. The vision that was documented was in the 1920s itself. So do not be fooled that Pakistan had some kind of negative role in all of this. Irrespective of what Pakistan would have done, India was never going to fulfill its obligation, ever. वो कहते हैं कि they are an honest enemy. तो अब वो उस वक्त वो डिसऑनेस्ट एनिमी था, आज वो ऑनेस्ट एनिमी है. खुलकर कहता है कि नहीं, अब तो खत्म है, आर्टिकल 370 भी खत्म, 35A भी खत्म, कोई डिस्प्यूटेड टेरिटरी भी नहीं है, आजाद कश्मीर भी हमारा, पाकिस्तान भी हमारा है, सब कुछ हमारा है, हमारा ही हमारा. तो so the plebiscite didn't happen because India accused Pakistan, Pakistan accused India. But in any case, whatever the conditions, India would not have fulfilled their responsibility. And most importantly, if we went back to that plebiscite today, Pakistan repeatedly has said to India that we are prepared to talk on Kashmir. We are prepared to negotiate on Kashmir. Come to the talking table. India never wants to. It's always India that bites or slaps the hand away of Pakistan. Pakistan always reaches out. I have some disagreements on the reaching out of Pakistan to India, or the attempted settlement of Kashmir, but it's always India that dismisses the hand of Pakistan. There's a joke for Kashmiris, जो हम कहते हैं कि that जब कुछ होता है तो फिर international community, when they want to intervene between India and Pakistan, India says this isn't an international issue, this is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. फिर जब पाकिस्तान कहता है कि चलो ठीक है, अगर ये bilateral issue है, चल हम बात करते हैं, इंडिया कहता है कि ये कोई bilateral issue नहीं है, ये एक internal issue है. फिर जब कश्मीरी कहते हैं कि चलो अगर इंटरनल इशू है चाहे हमारे साथ तो बात कर ले, इंडिया कहते हैं कि कोई मसला ही नहीं है, कोई इशू ही नहीं है. So this is the joke. India has no intention of letting Kashmir go, no intention of offering a plebiscite, no intention of right to self-determination, no intention of fulfilling the responsibility that it promised. तो अगर वो प्यार से नहीं मानेंगे तो फिर जबरदस्ती से देखते हैं.
Okay, Muzammil bhai also represented the Kashmir in the OIC, in the last OIC. तो मैं चाहूँगा कि आप जरा अपना OIC का experience हमारे साथ share करें, वो कैसा रहा और
Alhamdulillah, it was surprisingly, from what I've heard of different people, it was surprisingly positive. मुझे पता नहीं है कि it was maybe I had a good experience or maybe मैंने बात ऐसी की कि reaction अच्छा था, लेकिन interestingly the Saudis, you can say what you want about the Saudis. I was born in Saudi Arabia, so I know what Saudis are like very, very well. Lekin, the best reaction or the best response that I had from anybody in the OIC was from the Saudis. They were the most thankful for the statement that I made. और वो खुद आए थे, वरना वो कभी किसी के पास नहीं जाते. खुद आए, सलाम किया अपने तरीके से और appreciate किया बात. So that was a very unique experience for me to think that in my mind कि Saudis, लेकिन क्या जो image है उनका वो कुछ और था, लेकिन मेरे सामने they were very, very, very nice, very positive, very encouraging. और Ishaq Dar Sahab, the foreign minister, he was also there and he appreciated as well. All in all, I had a decent experience. The only I can't say negative. The only observation that I have of the OIC, of how it could have been better, is jo baki side events jo hai, that we should be involved in all of them. We shouldn't just attend the session just for Kashmir. We should attend every session and link the Kashmir issue with everybody else's issue. Kyunki ye zaruri nahi hai ki koi hamare paas aa jayega. Agar if they don't come to our session, we must go to theirs. We must show our presence in their sessions. We must show our presence with the Sudanese. We must show our presence with the people of Azerbaijan. We must show our presence with the people of Turkey, so that they can then come to our events as well, and come to our meetings as well.
اوکے مزمل بھائی، لاسٹ میں چاہوں گا کہ اگست ہے اور اس پہ انڈیپینڈنس ڈے ہے، اور میں چاہوں گا کہ آپ کوئی اپنا میسج یا تھاٹس شیئر کریں اباؤٹ پاکستان. What do you think about it?
Pakistan, I think Pakistan isn't free. It hasn't gained its full independence until Kashmir has its freedom. The K in Pakistan stands for Kashmir. And we have plenty of literature from Allama Iqbal and from Qaid Azam to suggest that what Kashmir actually means to Pakistan. So while you recognize your freedom and your privilege and the azadi that your ancestors fought for, recognize that it still hasn't been completed. Your ancestors fought for azadi. It is your responsibility to complete the full azadi of Pakistan, which is by liberating Kashmir. Take pride in your nation. Take pride in its successes. Don't look at its failures. Don't look at its mishaps. Remember that it is a very young country. It's only in the context of countries that have been around for several hundred years, and they have long history. Pakistan is barely 70, 80 years old. So give it some credit, forgive its mistakes, and most importantly, support its endeavors, and make sure you build Pakistan to be a global phenomenon, not just militarily, but also diplomatically, intellectually, economically, academically, in all spheres. Kyunki Pakistan ke andar koi kami nahi hai logon ki, especially people that are skilled, people that are intelligent, people that have huge potential. It is a potential that maybe other countries don't have, and it is a potential that is being wasted. So take the opportunity of being proud Pakistanis, but recognize that Pakistan is incomplete without Kashmir, and it is also that the success, sovereignty, and future of Pakistan lies with the liberation of Kashmir.
میرے خیال سے اب کوئی کوشچن نہیں ہے، تو ہم اس کو اینڈ کرتے ہیں. اگر کس کا کوشچن ہے، علی جاوید کا شاید کوشچن ہے. علی، میں نے آپ کو انمیوٹ کیا ہے، آپ کوشچن پوچھ سکتے ہیں.
جی بالکل. میرا بیسیکلی لاسٹ میں جو کوشچن ریز کر رہا تھا تو وہ کچھ انٹرنیٹ کا ایشو ہو گیا. اینی ویز، ایک تو یہ کہ جو لیگل پائپ لائن کا پروسیس ہے کہ ہم کشمیر کا ایشو جو ہے وہ لیگل پلیٹ فارم پہ کیسے اٹھا سکتے ہیں، اور پھر اسی کے تناظر میں ہم لوگ جو ہے وہ کانٹینٹ کریشن کر سکتے ہیں، اویئرنیس پھیلا سکتے ہیں. تو ہمیں ایک سے آپ کہیں کہ تھوڑا سا ایجوکیٹ ہونا پڑے گا، اور اس کے لیے بھی ایک اہتمام ہونا ضروری ہے. ایک تو یہ، اور دوسرا یہ کہ مزمل صاحب نے یہ بتایا، اور اس سے پہلے بھی حامد بھائی سے میری بات ہوئی ہے، کہ جب والنٹیئرز جو ہیں وہ اپنا ٹائم اور اپنے ریسورس ڈیووٹ کرتے ہیں، اور جب وہ دیکھتے ہیں کہ کوئی خاطر خواہ رزلٹ نہیں نکل رہا، یا آئی اپولوجیز ٹو سے کہ کبھی کبھار فاشزم کی صورت میں ہمیں گورنمنٹ کا رسپانس دیکھنا پڑتا ہے، تو الٹیمیٹلی سب ایگزاسٹ ہو جاتے ہیں، اور پھر وہ دم توڑ جاتی ہے جو ہمت ہوتی ہے. تو اس کے حوالے سے میں آپ سے یہ پوچھنا چاہوں گا کہ کیا کوئی ایسا میکنزم نہیں ہونا چاہیے کہ جب آپ ایک تحریک چلاتے ہیں یا اویئرنیس پھیلاتے ہیں تو اس کے پیچھے تھوڑا سا ریسورس کرنا پڑتا ہے موومنٹ کو یا اویئرنیس پھیلانے کے لیے، جو بھی ہیومن پاور کو جب انگیج کیا جاتا ہے تو اس کے لیے کچھ ریسورس جو ہے وہ انگیج کرنا پڑتا ہے، سپلائی کرنا پڑتا ہے. تو کیا اس کے لیے کوئی ایسا میکنزم نہیں ہونا چاہیے جس میں ہم بائیکاٹ بھی کر لیں؟ یعنی حامد بھائی اس بات کو سمجھتے ہیں کہ میں نے پہلے بھی ریکویسٹ کی کہ جب یہ 2023 کے بعد سے مسئلہ شروع ہوا فلسطین کا، تو میں نے ان سے یہی کہا کہ بھئی اگر ہم ایٹ لیسٹ بائیکاٹ کے مد میں پاکستانی پروڈکٹس کو زیادہ سے زیادہ اوپر لے کر آئیں، اور جو ہے کیونکہ لوگ دیکھتے ہیں فگرز کو. فار ایگزامپل اگر مزمل بھائی جو ہیں ان کی آئی ایم ویری مچ بلنٹ ٹو سے کہ اگر ہم ان کی ہی ان کے نام کو ریپرزینٹ کریں اور کہیں کہ جی دس از فار سیک آف پاکستان اینڈ کشمیر اینڈ فار سیک آف پیلسٹائن، کہ جی آپ ہمیں سپورٹ کریں. تو بائیکاٹ کے مد میں ہم کیوں نہیں پاکستانی پروڈکٹس سیل آؤٹ کر سکتے، جس میں عوام کو بھی فل اپ ہونے کا موقع ملتا ہے کہ وہ اپنے آپ کو ریسورس کر سکتے ہیں، اور ہماری بھی جو موومنٹ اسٹرینتھ ہے اس میں اضافہ ہو. تو مجھے یہ اس کے بارے میں جاننا تھا. تھینک یو.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Strengthen Pakistani products through BDS, but also jo resources ki baat hai, absolutely. But somebody else had also asked about this as well. Of how do you go about asking people or connecting to people? You just have to knock on doors. Har kisi ke paas jana hai aur mangna hai. If you don't ask, you don't get. You don't know what you can get unless you ask. But for the BDS, it is extremely important that at least we have a list. I think let's put the Palestinian issue aside for just a moment, and we talk about BDS against India. Pehle identify kar le, because Indians have a huge number of products, and I don't know कि उसके मुकाबले में पाकिस्तान का क्या है सिवाय मसाले. I know that you have Shan and National. शायद लजीजा भी आपका है, लेकिन बाकी चीज हमें देखना है कि what are the things that Pakistan actually produces or can export, and then we can start figuring out what it is that it can replace against the Indians. And then jo yahan pe hai, once I can engage with different people, organizations, the BDS here, we ask them to reach out to the different stores or baki jo businesses hai, to start the replacements and get the supply from Pakistan. Strengthening Pakistan economy is extremely important. Economics is always going to be important. The politics and the diplomacy is only as important or as strong as the economic strength behind it. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
مزمل بھائی آلریڈی پاکستان کے اندر انڈین پروڈکٹس کو جو گورنمنٹ ہوتی ہے وہ کچھ نہ کچھ طریقے سے اس کو تھوڑا پیچھے کرنے کی کوشش کر رہی ہوتی ہے. بٹ یہ بہت اچھا سٹارٹ ہے جو آپ نے کہا کہ اسپیشلی جو اوورسیز کے لیے اگر ہم کریں اور منسٹری آف کامرس کے ساتھ اگر ہم کولیب کر کے اور ان پروڈکٹس کو ہم تھوڑا اوپر لے
ایکسپورٹ
کے آئیں
بس ایکسپورٹ
یا
کر لے, کیونکہ
ایکسپورٹ کر لیں.
جب میں پاکستان سے باہر جاتا ہوں نا, I crave a lot of Pakistani things, a lot of Pakistani foods or a lot of Pakistani products جو یہاں پہ ملتی نہیں ہے, اور مجھے پتا ہے کہ یہ پاکستانی چیز زیادہ اچھا ہے. بٹ یہاں پہ صرف یہ جو لوکل یا لوکل یا انڈین یا کوئی اور فلانا جائے, مطلب it just doesn't make sense that why Pakistan isn't exporting its best products, or its materials or whatever. There is so much potential inside Pakistan that isn't being explored. Or you can blame the government as much as you want. Lekin it is responsibility of business houses to do that. The most famous export that Pakistan has is leather. Everybody knows that leather is amazing for Pakistan. But apart from the football that is going to these FIFA and jo baki football clubs ke paas, but where is the rest of the leather? Why do people want to buy Italian leather? Jab har kisi ko pata hai ki Pakistani leather acha hai. It really is something that the commerce industry inside Pakistan needs to talk about. And then, of course, use that as a strategy to BDS against India.
اس میں پاکستانی جو پروڈیوسرز ہیں ان کو بھی انکریج کرنے کی ضرورت ہے, کیونکہ میں نے دیکھا بریڈ فورڈ کے اندر میں نے دیکھا پاکستانی پروڈکٹ انڈین نام سے بک رہی ہے, اور پتہ نہیں مارکیٹنگ اسٹریٹجی ہے یا کیا ہے, اور وہ جب تک وہ خود اس کو پراؤڈ نہیں ہوں گے تو اس کو ہم کیسے پروموٹ کر سکتے ہیں. So I think that's it for today. مزمل بھائی بہت شکریہ آپ کا, آپ نے اپنا اتنا قیمتی وقت ہمیں دیا.
Jazakallah khair. People stayed, people listened, asking very good questions جہاں پہ مجھے بھی ideas آئے ہیں. علی جاوید صاحب نے the BDS thing, it didn't even occur to me that we should force business houses inside Pakistan to start not only manufacture but export. You have a lot of surplus. تو جو surplus ہے کم از کم وہی بیچ دیں, شروع کر لے اسی کے ساتھ. And we can talk to local businesses, Bradford میں یا مانچسٹر, برمنگم, یہ تو ہب ہے پاکستانیوں کا کہ وہ لوگ امپورٹ کریں پاکستانی products and replace them with Indian products. It is the first way. It is the first and the most effective way that we can do this.
اوکے. اچھا, ابھی کچھ مہینے پہلے لائک لاسٹ منتھ میں ہم نے لاہور کے اندر یونیورسٹیز کے ٹور کیے تھے. اراؤنڈ ہم 10 یونیورسٹیز میں گئے تھے, اور وہاں پہ پیلسٹائن اور کشمیر کے ایشو کو ہم نے اکٹھے ریز کیا تھا, ہندوتوا اینڈ زائنزم پہ. اور اس میں جو ہم نے بائیکاٹ کی بھی بات کی تھی, اس میں ہم نے ان دونوں کو اکٹھے ہی لے کے آئے تھے کہ بھارت کے ساتھ بھی ہماری جنگ ہو رہی ہے, اور کشمیریوں پہ جو مظالم ہو رہے ہیں, جو پاکستان جو انڈین مسلمس پہ جو مظالم ہو رہے ہیں, اس کے لیے ہمیں ان کو بھی بائک آؤٹ کرنا چاہیے. تو ماشاءاللہ پاکستان میں یہ ہے کہ انڈین پروڈکٹس بہت کم ہیں. انڈین موویز وغیرہ آتی ہیں اور اس کو شاید روکنا چاہیے. اور تھینک یو ویری مچ مزمل بھائی ونس اگین. اور آخر میں یہی کہوں گا کہ بہت سے لوگوں کو کنفیوژن تھی کہ واٹ از وائس آف پاکستان. بہت سے لوگوں نے میسج کر کے بھی پوچھا. تو وائس آف پاکستان ہم نے بنایا تھا جب یہ مارکہ حق ہو رہا تھا, اور اس کے دوران ہمیں محسوس ہوا کہ بہت سا سائیکولوجیکل سائیوپس جو ہے سائیکولوجیکل پیشنٹ ہمارے خلاف ہو رہے ہیں, مس انفارمیشن کا پھیلایا جا رہا ہے. تو ہم نے یہی کوشش کی کہ ہم جو ریئل نیریٹو ہے, نیریٹو جو کہ پاکستان کا ہے یا مسلم یونٹی کا ہے, اس کو ہم پروموٹ کریں اور ہم اس کو ایک یونٹی کی فضا قائم کر سکیں, سائیوپس کو کاؤنٹر کر سکیں, اور ہم ایسے لوگوں کو آگے لے کے آئیں جو واقعی حقیقت میں امت کا درد رکھتے ہیں اور کام کر رہے ہیں. تو انشاءاللہ ہم کشمیری ڈیسک کا بھی ہم نے بنا تو لیا تھا, لیکن ہم اس پہ اتنا زیادہ کام نہیں کر سکے. تو میں آپ لوگوں سے پھر ریکویسٹ کروں گا کہ جو اس کو جوائن کرنا چاہتا ہے وہ گروپ میں میسج کرے, اور جب ہم لوگ کا ایک ہو جاتا ہے, ہم لوگ ڈیسائیڈ کر لیتے ہیں کہ ہم نے کیا کام کرنا ہے, تو پھر ہم انشاءاللہ مزمل بھائی کو پھر دعوت دیں گے کہ وہ آئیں اور ہمیں بتائیں, ہمارے لیے اسٹریٹجی بنائیں کہ ہم نے اس کو کیسے لے کے جانا ہے. جزاک اللہ
inshallah.
خیر.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you all for your time.
تھینک یو ویری مچ مزمل بھائی. کچھ کوشچنس بھی ہیں مزمل بھائی,
جی ہاں,
ایک دو کوشچنز ہیں.
ٹھیک ہے.
We should know and spread awareness about our products like please let us know how we can know in the World Kashmir Freedom Movement. پوچھا گیا ہے کہ ورلڈ کشمیر فریڈم موومنٹ میں ہم کیسے جوائن کر سکتے ہیں. اینڈ شیئر دا لنک آف ظاہر صفی صاحب اینڈ دا چیریٹی ورک یو آر ڈوئنگ. انشاءاللہ جزاک اللہ خیرا.
یہ جو for WKFM, I'm working with Hamid Saab. If you're working with Hamid Saab, then indirectly or directly you'll be working with us as well. کیونکہ کام تو بہت ہے. And we need you. We need all of your help. We need content writers. We need people that know how to run Instagram and TikTok. We need people that can publish research. We need, you know, everything. We need everything. Kyunki hamara jo volunteers hai, everybody is growing up. They're going to university. They're going to work. People start having families. Har kisi ki responsibilities badh jati hai, aur fir commitment kam ho jati hai. So I'm hoping that at least in the beginning, if you guys, we can maybe do a workshop at some point just to figure out what everybody's skill set is, and then we can start assigning tasks, inshallah.
بالکل. اور آپ سب لوگوں سے ایک ریکویسٹ بھی ہے کہ آپ لوگ سب جلدی جلدی اپنا کام شروع کریں, بیکاز ہمارے لیے پھر آپ کے لیے ایک اسپیشل گفٹ بھی ہے. گفٹ تو نہیں کہنا چاہیے, جو سپٹمبر میں ہوگا. دیر از اے اسپیشل تھنگ ہیپننگ فار دا پیلسٹائن اینڈ دا کشمیر. اور تو جو لوگ اسلام آباد میں ہے, لاہور میں ہے, کراچی میں ہے, آپ لوگ کائنڈلی اپنا اسکل سیٹ لازم ہمیں بتائیں کہ آپ کس طرح کام کر سکتے ہیں. بیکاز آلریڈی ہمارے پاس ویڈیو ایڈیٹرس ہیں, ہمارے پاس گرافک ڈیزائنرس ہیں, بٹ ہمارے پاس کانٹینٹ رائٹرس جو ہیں اسپیشلی جو انگلش
Research.
لینگویج میں لکھ سکتے ہیں,
Yeah.
ریسرچ وہ بہت کم ہے. تو آپ لوگ اپنا اسکل سیٹ لازم بتائیں اور لازم جوائن کریں. جزاک اللہ خیر. انشاءاللہ نیکسٹ ایپیسوڈ میں ہم حاضر ہوں گے. نیکسٹ ایپیسوڈ بہت اسپیشل ہے, آپ لوگ لازم جوائن کیجیے گا. نیکسٹ ایپیسوڈ ہوگی پاکستان کے حوالے سے, وائے پاکستان, کہ پاکستان بنانا کیوں ضروری تھا اور کیوں بنایا گیا. اور فریڈم مومنٹ کے ایک بزرگ ہیں پروفیسر یوسف عرفان صاحب, جنہوں نے اس کو بہت قریب سے دیکھا, اور وہ ہمیں ایڈریس کریں گے. تو لازم جوائن کریں. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.
وعلیکم السلام.